And we are live, but we're actually not live. We're here for we're here for our third episode of the Prostreet Talk Podcast. We're here with Callum and Jarrod. G'day, boys. You might actually recognise these cars because they were recently on a full boost video. We'll link to that below or put up a section of it now on camera. But yeah, so we're here with the boys. So Callum on my closest to me, and then you got Jarrod closest to Matty.
Welcome, boys.
So,
welcome to the cars.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us. You got Harley behind the camera again doing his thing.
Yep.
Clearly, you guys aren't barra boys. It seems to be.
Unlike us.
I'm not like us. We're actually just talking about how different it is.
Yeah, we were.
Having an LS to, a Barra Turbo, and I basically told Matt it's time we get some good cars. So
time for a change, man.
Some good engines,
change is good.
But yeah, so let's get started. So, boys, what's the go with the cars? What do you do with yourself? So, Jarrod, this tuning gig you got going on, it's actually not your full-time thing. So
no, just weekends.
It's more of a passion sort of thing, and you're pretty cluey with it. So,
explain. I wouldn't say cluey, but I do enough to get by. But
explain what you do, man.
So during Monday to Friday, basically just project engineer.
Yep.
And I've been doing. Well, I started off in oil and gas actually. Quite a few years ago, as just a design engineer, doing refineries and that sort of stuff for BP, Caltex, all that sort of gear. And then that, if you guys remember, it's a long time ago now, but Gulf of Mexico, the big oil spill.
Yep.
So that industry, BP had to do a lot of divesting, so they sold off a lot of businesses, and the work sort of dried up. So actually ended up getting poached into pallet racking, right? Logistics warehousing, which, as we know, this country. It massively relies on it. So even in Melbourne, Truganina, I think you were saying you sort of work out that way now, Derrimut.
Yeah, I'm from out Derrimut way.
So it's basically next door. Yeah, but all of there's a lot of warehouses going up there now. So what the company I work for we do all the pallet racking, but for big DCs, so the massive warehouses.
Yep.
But the work I'm doing currently is actually in Cootamundra. So I was up there, GDR Festival, only back in April or whatever it was.
Oh, mad. So
I'm up there for working on the weekends. I was just down there.
Go watch the racing.
Enjoying
yourself. And
yeah, it was killer.
Yeah.
So there's an abattoir out there, and there's a big upgrade going on at this particular facility. It's been going on for about 3 years. So I'm there currently at the moment. But yeah, in short, it's basically just pallet racking, but on steroids. It's all fully automated. There's robots running around and pretty cool stuff. So tuning, just weekends only. But I've been doing it for over sort of 15 years now. It's been a long time.
It's basically like your bread and butter now.
Well, you started on this.
Correct. Yeah, well, that's exactly how I got into it, right? So I've had that car since 2007 and bought it with 25,000 Ks. It's got 107,000 on it now, so I've owned it for 17 years. But in terms of the tuning, it was similar to the full boost video where I just wanted to get into tuning myself. I was that sort of 15-year-old kid a long time ago now. I'm 40 next year, so think about that. Full boost 25-year anniversary doesn't sound too old to me.
Yeah.
So when I was 15, that's when full boost was taken off. This is the late 90s, early 2000s.
When I was still a young pup, watching full
early
boost
90s,
as a kid.
bro, you weren't even around.
But early thousands. Early thousands,
probably in Dad's bag.
Dad's bag.
So back then, though, you got to remember, internet was not what it is now. You were lucky to get ADSL rather than just even dial-up. So it was horrible. So back then, magazines were everything. Street Commodore, Street Machine, it was huge. So myself as that 15, 16-year-old kid, most other kids would just buy the magazine, look at the pictures, flick through the pages. I was actually the one that was interested in all the technical columns. And back then, it was actually Martin Donnan, who I know now, and he was effectively Australia's best tuner, for decades. And
shout out to Street Tuner.
He still is, Street Tuner. He's, not that I met him back then, but I used to read all of his articles. So just over time, everyone's like, how do you know so much about this stuff? I'm like, well, actually read the magazine.
You actually absorb the information.
All the technical stuff. So, and we're talking LS1 edit. So LS1s first came in these cars, 99, 2000.
Yeah.
So ever since then, everybody else, all my mates, they'll say, 304, 355 strokers, like all the Holden stuff. And I'm like, guys, trust me, these LSs are going to make them all look like rubbish. Because with the tune only, they were pushing 200 kilowatts. And back then, that was huge.
Yeah.
And, a mate of mine, Jason, Andrew Arthur from high school, he bought a VT R8 when we were still in year 12. And that car was an absolute weapon. We would be going out on weekends.
Fuck, how much were one of them brand new back then?
I think back then he paid probably 30-something K, 40K.
That's what they go for now.
20 odd years ago,
Correct. And well, I mean, Jason, he could be able to correct me if I'm wrong if he ever watches this, but he's because he later ended up joining the army, and he's now got a VZ R8, which is off chops,
Evil
high
R8 for
torque,
the
high torque
Okay.
built, killer car. But yeah, back then LSs
weapon.
were everything, so I already knew where it was going. And then, you know, I'm probably 21, 22 at this stage. I'm like, you know what? Now's the time I can afford it. I'll buy some software, get into tuning myself. Pretty much taught. I won't say taught myself.
Did you already have the SS then?
I did.
Yep.
I did have the SS, so I started to learn slowly but surely on that car. But during that same time period is where I met Lewis from APS.
Yep.
Solar.
Good friends with him now. And he effectively, you know, took me under his wing, showed me like the right way to go about tuning, right? So that's the thing with tuning. You can, if you're self-taught, you know, kudos, it's not easy to do. But unfortunately, if you're not shown the right way, you can pick up bad habits.
You're going to learn the wrong way.
So they're correct.
Yeah.
And there are right and wrong ways to do certain things. It's
And that's
not to
another
say it's
thing
the be-all and end-all.
That's another thing we've touched on. Like, every tuner's got their day, you know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, you'll have your fucking good days, weeks, months where you're just smashing out. And then, you know, sometimes you'll just have that one tune or something, and it just fucks your
100%
life.
it happens.
Yeah, you can't put a finger on
When you're
something
doing
that's gone
4
wrong.
or 5 cars a day and you're trying to smash out, you know, 2 hours here, there. I mean, some people take less time, but I'm pretty anal.
Yeah.
I like to take the right amount of time, but I can tell you now, even though it's, you know, I'm only tuning weekends, we'll back up 4 or 5 cars on that weekend.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So when you're rolling through, I mean, look, the cam stuff, heads cam, not too hard, honestly. That's pretty straightforward. But where it does get tricky is when you're doing turbo stuff, blower stuff.
You
and
work
there's
with what you got.
always-
Yeah, some cars, they come in, they're not running right. Oh, can you fix it?
And that's the biggest issue, right?
Yeah.
You
Trying to
can work
find
in.
a point.
Tuning a car that was built in-house is different. Speaking of in-house, so
Correct.
I actually didn't know this until I watched the full boost video that you're not actually the owner of AccelGarage. That's why I
No.
touched on what you do for your full-time job.
Yes.
You're just the full-time tuner here technically.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
But yeah, it's like when you get a customer's car that comes in, it's not running right, this, that, whatever, then it's like, that's when shit starts getting like tricky. Yeah. It's like,
Exactly.
okay, you got to find the source of the problem, change this, change that, you know. Whereas like you got a fresh build or something, you know everything that's gone into it, you kind of expect what's going to happen.
Yeah.
People
And
don't get that. People do
No,
not
they
get
don't.
that.
And you'll find that that's every workshop. They've all got their own ways of doing things. So they've got their own parts suppliers. They use the parts that they know work.
Yep.
So unfortunately, what can happen and what we see a lot is, you know, you've got all these other workshops that don't necessarily do tuning. So they'll build it, and then they'll bring the car in and say, oh yeah, it's just here for a tune. And then you spend 4 hours on a 2-hour job diagnosing all the things that are wrong.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
that's not to discredit the workshop that brought you the car.
Exactly right.
It's purely because they
You don't
didn't
know.
make that phone call ahead to say, right, you know, and this is something for everyone to take note of. If you know someone that's going to be tuning your car, call that workshop.
Communicate.
Call that tuner and say, right, guys, you're the ones that I want to tune it. What would you recommend for the cam, the converter,
This, yeah.
the diff gears,
Yeah.
the whole combination? Because the car, front to back,
Work
has
with the
to work.
tuner.
Yeah,
That's what it
it's
is.
got to mash together.
Talk to your tuner.
Communication, man,
End of story.
with anything.
Yeah, correct. Let them know
Yeah.
what you're doing, so that, you know, the first question I'll always ask, right, guys, you know, and it's little things too. So you'll have someone buy a car from interstate, and let's say it was, you know, whatever, VY, VZ, boosted, but to sell the car, the previous owners pulled off the blower, pulled off the turbo. All right, simple stuff. You then get the car, and it's here for a tune. You're racking your brain, the car's not running right. You're like, hang on, I've done 100 of these things. Why isn't the car running? To then find out that it's got a 2-bar map sensor because they've left the boosted map sensor on it, and now you're trying to tune an NA. And while that doesn't sound like a big deal,
Yep.
if you're not told that, you're chasing your tail for 20 minutes until
Yeah,
you figure
it's
out,
not- yeah.
look at the log, and
Yep.
go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm not reading Atmo when the key's on reds. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff too, which it can leave a bad taste in your mouth, and generally that's why you would always only ever want to do stuff in-house.
Yeah.
But like any business, you're going to take on that work just to keep things moving. You know, it is bread and
Name
butter at
and
the end of the
yeah.
day, so you've got to do stuff to bring the money in.
That's like,
Simple.
say you get old mate, we'll just call him Darren. He decides to build a car, new customer, you never dealt with him before. It's like, oh yeah, it's had, you know, just a cam and heads on it, but you don't know what cam it's got. Is it, like, say you'll get a turbo car, but it's got not a boost suited cam in it and shit like that, and it just fucks your life
Basic
in the
It
dyno.
does, but
Yeah.
I mean, look, not that that's the end of the world, honestly, because when you've done enough of these things, honestly, like the compression ratio, the cam, the heads, it's not irrelevant, obviously, but the car tells you what it wants. So,
Yeah.
you know, when you're dialing in the fueling, when you're putting timing in, the thing starts pinging, okay, it's got comp. Or you know that the cam's big and lazy because you have to take out all the fuel down low and add a heap of fuel up top. So the fuel table will show you the efficiency, and generally I can pick the cam spec just by looking at the numbers. Like
Yep.
once you understand the numbers and you understand how volumetric efficiency actually works, that side of tuning isn't hard at all.
There you
Big
go.
boosted stuff, like some of the cars we've been doing recently, 2650i Harrops, they're tricky, or at
Yep.
least for me. I don't know about other tuners, but simple stuff like if you from idle give it a massive whack of the throttle, because it's 20 pounds instantly. The minute you touch the throttle, 20 pounds. So the engine gets all the airflow, but you have to compensate that, overcompensate with the fuel. Otherwise, you get a massive lean spot. That's why sometimes you'll hear cars that you whack the throttle and they have like a big lean spike, or you hear that sort of
It'll sound like they almost like they choke it. And
Yeah,
it's
coughs,
like
yeah.
this on.
correct.
Yeah.
Because that's the power enrichment, that the fuel's not there when all the airflow is. So there are ways that you can either, especially on electronic throttle body stuff, VE, VF, you can ramp in the throttle. So even if you're, I've done this at the racetrack too. So you can be foot to the floor, like on the pedal, but you can modulate the throttle to only open at a set percentage. So for example, there was Az's car.
Like gradually open.
Correct,
Yeah.
gradually open. So we had Az's Grange, WM Grange.
Yep.
That's
For a photo
427, Maggie 2300, like makes 640, 650 on 12 pounds, 13 pounds. It's like
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Factory 6L80. Key, factory 6L80.
All right.
But he went to Calder and raced on like Chinese, what were they, wind runs or something?
Something like that,
And I got that car.
Yeah,
to run
no
like
joke.
You're running
1080
Jesse.
to- 1080,
Power skiing
130,
probably half the track.
140. Yeah, well, he did.
He
but-
pedals.
Well, that was like, I remember that
pedals.
day because there was another customer's car and he was on 22s and he bagged half the fucking track.
Yeah, correct.
In like a VE or something.
Yeah, that was the VE.
That's on VU, Andrew.
Sport. Yeah, that's got
Yeah.
a Whipple 3 litre. I've still got to touch that car up, actually. If he was watching, he probably wouldn't be too happy with me, but it does like this little hunting thing. So,
Yep.
like the summernats cars, whoop, whoop, but people love that shit.
Yeah,
Most people love that
yeah,
shit.
yeah.
But for him, it's a bit of a pain in the dick to drive, so I'm still sort of figuring that one out. I've got to do a touch up.
So what blower setups on that?
He loves a skid.
Maggie 2300?
On Az's
Yeah.
or the other one?
Another
Oh,
one.
so it was the other one, sorry.
The VE.
Yeah, so that's a 427, I think, with a Whipple like 3 or 4 litre. So it's
Okay,
got that
geez, yeah.
massive, like oval 120 mil throttle body or something on it.
Yep.
Which they're very tricky to tune because
yeah.
they're sensitive. Yeah, that's what I said.
We're
I'm
getting a
close
rude
to the hole
interruption
door.
from the roof rattling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cars driving past. People.
Speaking of interruptions, Amph's not here, as you clearly can't
Yeah,
tell. You can't
yeah.
see him. All right.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Anth.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. I reckon let's jump into some of the builds you've done. We just touched base on some of the VEs you've done.
Yep.
Well, Grange and a VE. What's the go of your car, Callum? So what's the
Yeah.
build on that? I'd say we'd start with that because it's a bit more simpler than Jarrod's. What's
Yeah,
the
it's gonna be
comfort
more
as well?
nitty-gritty with
So
his.
what's the current setup on it at the moment? Obviously, you've got the nice LSA blower sticking out the bonnet over
Yeah,
there.
bit sneaky.
So a bit sneaky,
Ju-
but
just
we
enough
love
to
that.
notice.
Yeah, so
Not a spectacular combo, but for the output, it's pretty sick.
Yep.
1900 conversion on a factory LS1.
yep.
I want to say push rods, and
Yes.
that's it. Because
Valve springs.
Oh, there is valve springs. Okay, good. So lifters are 277,000 Ks old.
Yep.
Heads have not been off the car. Blower, trans cooler for the auto, but that is still a factory untouched 4L60.
Yep.
Original? Original auto?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay.
I just don't go into fourth when I'm on it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just first, second, third's no problem.
Is that still standard cam?
Yeah,
In that?
yeah.
Okay. So
It's literally bolt-on blower. When
Like
my brother,
converter,
I bought
yeah.
it off him.
Stock converter.
I want to say Christmas 22
yep.
or Christmas 21. I can't remember, but he bought that car when he
He was bored when
Yes.
building this.
pretty much during
Yeah.
COVID. Yeah.
Yes, I was.
He was
Yeah.
bored.
He ended up getting a company car for work, and he was looking to get rid of it. That's why I bought it. But when he bought this thing, it was bog stock, and then there was bits and pieces lying around, and he always wanted to do an LSA blower as a guinea pig to see how he could tune it on a factory computer.
Yep.
And obviously made it a killer output, 390 kilowatts at the hubs.
There you go.
So
And that's
it's-
standard
that's-
cam. Just
that's-
what? Just valve springs whacked in it and
Valve springs push rods, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
nice.
Warbro
Stop the
fuel
flow,
pump,
which is
255
pushing
fuel pump.
power.
there
Yeah,
you
it's
go.
wicked for
That's
what it is
great.
now.
Yeah,
Technically,
that's
you probably
awesome.
don't even need the valve springs because that's generally got to do with like the lift of the cam.
Yep.
So you probably could. I mean, but you're still pushing big power. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just insurance. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only thing.
It's just
Yeah.
insurance.
Like
Yeah.
I don't drive it mega hard, yeah, but I've had that thing a couple of years
We'll
now.
see how hard
and-
you leave today, but yeah.
Oh, no promises. We'll see. If anything, the diff's probably the only thing that'll go, but I've got stuff ready to go in that anyway.
Yeah.
You guys love
That'll be
leaving the diff and the axles as the weak points, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On
You'd rather be
purpose.
paying for those.
Yeah, true.
On purpose.
Another loud
Easiest to
car
change,
driving
cheapest
past.
to
Yeah.
change, so
The main thing I love about that is, yes, okay, 400 kilowatts is nothing these days. It's still nothing to sleep on.
But still, you got a blower just strapped on it. The power's
Dude,
like that
if
instant.
I wanted
Before I
to daily
sold
that
it to
thing,
him,
I
I
could.
used to daily it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
you
could
could just
genuinely
cruise.
daily it.
It's easy to drive, yeah? Like you said, stock cam, stock box.
Yeah, no converter, nothing. It's
Yeah.
it's wicked for what it is.
Converter it'd rip.
Oh,
but you
sorry,
actually
3,
don't
4,
really
5
need it.
gears in it as well.
Yeah.
That's
just
the only other
LSD.
difference. Yeah. So I've got Well, I'm not sure I'll change the ratio, but I've got a
don't, leave it.
torque lock and a Harrop diff cover to go in as well.
Okay,
eventually.
there you go.
But I've got plans for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
should be good.
diving into those plans, what do you reckon we're going to do? Because I think we might have to come back for another episode once this
Yeah,
new dyno
yeah.
room's done and
you
this
want.
next stage of the build. So
100%.
you want.
Yeah,
what's the plan? A big Holly high ram at the bonnet?
100%. Yeah, chances.
I think a few people know that I'm not the biggest fan of
I was
those
gonna say,
things.
if I did
but
that
I'll
for
let
Raleigh,
him, I'll
shoot
let
me.
him finish. Yeah.
You should just surprise him. Hey Jarrod, the car's done. You're like, what
Well,
the
the hole in the bonnet's
fuck?
big enough already, so you may as well just tunnel
Make a little
around
bit
it,
more of a
know?
cut.
You
No,
should
if,
do what they did. Do you remember that engine? I'll try to find a photo of it. That had like the fucking
It
24
was like a
nitro
good 2 meter
stacks.
stack.
Yeah, a stack
It was
of.
either Engine Masters or one of those American YouTube videos, but that
They
was,
love
I
doing
do
the shit out the
remember
bottom.
That was all nitrous, wasn't it, or some
Oh, I
shit,
don't
or was it
know.
just all
Yeah, I can't
plenum
remember that.
I think
spaces?
just plenum.
Yeah,
Okay.
but then I think they did gas it just for a laugh.
send.
It
It's
looked
probably
disgusting.
the only way to get power out of it. to be
Yeah,
honest.
it was like
just killed 'em.
trumpets, but then you had a high ram on the top.
Yeah,
It was
correct.
fucking
It looked
ugly.
ridiculous, but yeah, I'm all for testing stuff,
Yeah.
no matter how good or
Yeah.
bad.
But not
Yeah,
for
it's all
you.
about
You're not a
learning.
fan of the high rams.
No,
Nah, not at all.
no.
For
Hager's
tuning and stuff like that.
Not for tuning. They're fine. It's more about the power delivery, right? So I mean,
Yep.
sorry to take away from what you were
No, no,
talking about
that's all right.
before, but the mid range. They just have it doesn't matter if it's a 5.7, 6 litre. They just because of the runner length, unlike the factory banana style manifold, where they're all tuned to suit the power band of the motor. Simple.
Yep.
So when you go these big aftermarket Holly or whatever, even the Chinesian ones, the runners, the plenum volume, they just lose all the mid-range torque. They make power over 6,000.
Do you notice that even with like say like a Plazzy or like a VPW knockoff sort of thing?
Same
or
thing.
Same thing.
Same thing, but on those, so the Plazzy stuff, you're talking 427, G57
Yeah, big
turbo,
cubes, really
like
good.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
suited to a
it's
boosted
all, well,
application.
it's the power delivery. Well, no, sorry, not even power delivery, power band.
Yep.
So they're all track cars, straight up. So they're cars that have got your big 4.5K converter,
Yeah.
revving to 775. So you need that plenum because you want to make power over 6. Simple. If you've got a stock intake, your power's going to roll over at 6.5. So everything is fit for purpose. This is what I try
Yep.
and tell people. There's, bigger isn't always better. That goes for camshafts, intakes. It's what are you
It's to
using
suit
the
your,
car
yeah,
for?
suit your needs.
Is
Yeah,
it a daily? Is it a weekend race
it
car?
both?
Is it a-
Simple's better.
Yeah.
Keep it
so,
simple.
Correct.
Like I said in the full boost video too, if anyone actually knows me well enough, they just know that because I've grown up around Jarrod for my entire life,
Yep.
I'm naturally going to have a similar interest to what he's got.
100%.
And I've never wanted to try and replicate his combo because it's still rare enough as it is. You don't see many
Yeah.
twin turbo cars like that.
And mid mount as well.
That's right.
So-
So I've always been in the market for a turbo kit.
Yep.
And I've
Twin as well.
Well, that's what I'll get to. So I've always wanted a manual boosted LS.
Shut up, Jesse.
Fucking hell, James.
Actually, do
Talking
you,
too
want,
much.
do you want to say anything? Do you know anything about the car?
I know.
It's a podcast. We're meant to talk. That's the whole idea of it.
Exactly.
You're-
That's good.
I'll
It's good.
shut
It's
the fuck
good. I didn't mind what turbo I got, but when Jarrod and I were both looking, when I started getting serious, he actually found a twin turbo kit for sale at a really, really good price. And he threw it at me first and said, I don't care if you wanted twin turbo kit. He's like, but do you want it? It's a good price. Everything's there.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, screw it. It was in Ballarat
not?
or Bendigo, wherever it was.
Went for the drive.
Yeah, we went halfway to Bendigo.
Yeah. So actually, yeah, credit. The guy met us halfway. So one Saturday or Sunday, I went and picked it up, and everything was there. It was mint. They were 2871s, 76s. I'm going to go 3076
One size
housing
smaller
anyway.
than Mine. Technically two.
Yeah, but everything there, cooler piping, boost controller, the lot. So
Yep.
only thing I was going to do was get billet housings and just machine them out to go slightly larger.
Yep.
So the 3076 is the equivalent.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So I'll do that eventually. But to
Still
put
the
that in,
T28 housings,
Yeah.
but you upgrade the wheels to effectively the GT30 frame.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they,
So they'll
they
be
machined it all out. But yeah,
And who
Ben-
does all your turbo development stuff?
Ben.
Benny
Pro-
ProCharge?
ProCharge
Yep.
from Sunbury.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
known
you'll
him
be
for a
getting those
while
soon.
now as well, so I already worded him up to say, same thing we did on my turbos.
Yep.
But back then I supplied everything because you couldn't get stuff. Like Ben wasn't making billet wheels back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just seen he's doing the GTX 40 compact billet wheels now as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
looks
he's
sick.
he's developing
Yeah,
stuff
no,
like
but he's
that.
got his own little, all the flow benches, and he's got some really good stuff at his
Yeah,
factory.
knows
He
stuff.
does.
He knows
He's
what he's on
producing
about.
some good shit.
Yeah.
So
The way they
100%.
balance up, 80,000, 100,000 RPM. You hear these things and you just go, that's crazy.
That's often
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
So is this going to be almost a similar turbo setup, like compared to
so
yours?
mine's low mount compared to yours, right? Because I've got
Correct.
a scavenge pump setup, so it's going to sit behind the sump to obviously push oil back up.
Yep.
But having them where they are is probably going to be easier to fit than what it is for his.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
to get to
Yeah,
his
way
turbos,
easier.
it's almost motor out, if not motor out anyway.
Yeah, but you have to drop it down.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So the main difference, and new drinking game, guys. Every time I say correct, you got to take a shot.
So we've already had
The
one.
full
That's
boost
why-
video, there was like
Yeah.
a can of like 25.
I shouted out
I'm
Andrew
doing it again
before,
now. I
he'll
can
know.
already tell because I'm bloody conscious of it. But it's bad.
You can see him pause.
But the main difference between his and mine, right? So mine are just a log manifold. There's nothing fancy about it at all. It's literally a couple of just T pieces all welded together. So the turbos are right there, basically above the steering rack.
Yep.
So they still gravity feed back to the, only just, but they still gravity feed back to the sump.
Where's his?
And it's a pain in the ass to work on. Once they're in there, you're not getting back in there. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
forget it on
anyone
this
that
car.
watches the full boost video, you'll see I'm saying exactly the same stuff because that's exactly how it is.
Yeah, but then also for the people that haven't seen the full boost video, they'll probably go and click and watch it after this. So
Possibly.
Oh,
So
100%.
shout
Yeah.
out to Luke and Geordie.
shout out to
Yeah,
Luke and
appreciate
Jordy.
it.
Moxie boys, wicked.
Yeah.
We
that
hope
was
to have
killer.
you guys on the podcast
Oh.
sometime soon. So that'd be
But
good.
then,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure,
so his
that's
car
stories.
though, it's an MPW kit. Basically,
Yep.
that's how it started life. Whereas mine was a horsepower factory kit a long time
Okay.
ago. But his car will effectively have almost like an extractor. So there's a hand-built extractor.
Sort of like a 6-boost manifold where it's made to have the turbo bolted onto it.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Just think of like a standard 4-into-1
Yep.
and a turbo bolted on the back of it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's to be high level. That's exactly how it
Yeah.
looks. So his car will be way easier to work on, but because it does hang below the sump, you need the oil scavenge, and that's where it gets. I mean, look, there's
A
the
bit how you
systems
go.
now are a lot better these days. Guys will build little like collection sort of baffles and all that sort of stuff, because that's where your turbo you can essentially bleed oil past the seals if it doesn't drain away. So
Okay.
that pump has got to be positioned in a good place. It's got to be a good quality pump. So at the time, again, a long time ago when that was first done, so 12 to 15 years ago, all that sort of stuff was just rubbish back then. There was oil
Yeah.
pump failures, and I was like, no, we're not doing this. You know, another mate's car, VE GTS that Martin Donnan, he did the twin turbo conversion on that.
Yep.
And
Oh,
that
GTT.
that is when we had the oil scavenge issue. So once I saw that car doing that, I thought, nah, well, I'm not going to have that on mine.
Yeah.
So hence gravity feed.
Yeah, but yeah, shout out to Adam and Abe at MPW as well, because like I didn't obviously know them when they made the kit, but I've spoken to them through work and everything, which I know we'll get to.
Yep.
But yeah, the kit's wicked. Like it's gonna be really easy to work on.
Really
Okay,
easy to
Chris.
work
Awesome.
with as
Yeah.
well.
What
and
about cutter jar? Shout out to cutter jar as well.
I can do that. Tough stop.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
smart.
Tough stop. Yeah.
Tough job.
I worked with him briefly as well.
Okay. Yeah.
That
Good
car is for sale still. I
It
believe.
is. I'm surprised
It
he
is
hasn't sold it.
It is a cool car. That thing is awesome.
It's
Like
killer.
you'd
I
see
reckon
at car
the
shows.
rears, the concept
I-
of the rears is sick.
I followed
Yeah.
him home one day and he literally shook the street.
Yeah.
It was
You just see
ridiculous.
that thing just get sideways. Like
Yeah.
you don't expect it. It looks just like a fucking
Oh, it doesn't even
normal
try.
SS, you know,
Yeah.
view
Doesn't
on
for the wind.
influxes or whatever
Oh,
they're
yeah.
called.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, that was
just-
just VIs, that's right.
Yeah.
Inflections.
Yeah, nice wheel.
Yeah.
That's
But yeah,
I do
before
like that
we
wheel.
get interrupted again, I'll quickly jump on it. It'll still be standard bottom end because
Yep.
I've got to be good to the
now.
missus and start focusing on a house and stuff soon.
Yeah.
But fair's
Until
fair
he sends
because
it
she's
right
been
out the block,
accommodating.
but-
So yeah, it'll stay standard bottom end for now.
LS2
E85.
manifold like Jarrod's.
Correct.
Yep.
It will be. So I wanted to stay with as minimalistic as possible. I don't need anything fancy, and I know from experience the LS2 manifold is probably one of the
Do what
best
works,
flowing
man.
for
You don't
cathedral.
need big, deep pockets
Yeah.
and fancy shit to make
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
Like, just keep it simple.
So I've got a number in mind, and it's purely just because I want to see a 500,
Yep.
Oh, easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But-
AJ's car made 520 with that little,
and the turbo 400 as well, which
GT40,
would
yeah.
suck power. So
No, when we went turbo
Oh, was it
400,
manual?
it was like 470 or something.
Okay, so when it was manual, it made
was manual,
500.
which yours
Okay.
is going to be manual,
Yeah.
so I already know that's...
So I
know
don't
about
need to
the number.
rely on that, especially because I know the K's on the motor as well. Yes, it'll love boost because the ring gaps will be sick, but knowing the combo that I can put out of it, if I get anywhere between 450 to 500, I'll be wrapped.
Yep.
And
Sick.
being a manual, it's not going to be a quick car, but it'll be enough fun to road gears.
So speaking
yeah,
of manual,
I'm
with LSs, you've obviously got a couple combinations you can go for. So you got like just your standard T56, you got your T56 Magnum, and then you've also got TR6060.
which you can make work, yeah. So,
So-
mine is just a stock T56. I've got a conversion ready to go in.
Yep.
But Jarrod's is a Magnum, and that's for obvious reasons.
And what style clutch are you putting in? Button clutch? You can put like a twin plate or a heavy duty or
I don't actually know what it is.
Hopefully by then, I'll have my slipper clutch from
Oh,
the
yes, I'll
States.
probably just take his Mantic.
So I reckon we put the twin plate Mantic
Yeah.
in his...
And for some people playing at home that don't know what the fuck a slipper clutch is, you want to
Yeah.
explain that?
Cletus.
In short, think of a torque converter, but for a manual gearbox. All right. So the way it works is the clutch has like centrifugal forks
Yep.
on it. So the more weight on the forks, or the harder or faster the clutch spins, the weight pushes the pressure plate out. So
Okay.
you can dial in a clutch via the weights, where you can hold it at say 4,000 or 5,000 RPM on the line with a two-step, essentially dump the clutch, but it won't instantly grab. It'll control slip. Then with centrifugal force or RPM, will lock up,
Yep.
and then you'll basically take off. So you can be cruising around, and it's actually designed for drag and drive type stuff. That's why I want it, because I
Alright,
want to keep the
awesome.
manual, but then I want to be able to drag
You
race.
want to be able
or
to
roll
drag
race.
race it, roll race.
So there's a lot of, it does
Track
get a bit
days,
tricky.
maybe,
Well,
yeah.
you got to dial it in.
Yeah.
It's not just out of the box and throw a couple
throw
of
straight in. It's
counterweights
gonna
on it.
work. Nah.
You got to dial it all in. So, but that's essentially the way it works. So I can have a clutch that'll, if I'm cruising, bigfoot it'll slip straight to 4,000 and then lock up like a stall converter would, where the boost is
Okay.
going to be right there and then take off. So it's
Yeah, just
literally
for fun and money
for
spot.
guys that want to keep manuals and rogue gears. It's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Only issue, and don't tell the wife, they're expensive.
100%.
So
The car needed it.
that's
What do you mean?
where I'm at. That's where I'm at right now. I must admit.
The clutch
Like,
was broken, and I already
Yeah.
had this one in. I just had to replace it. And
Yeah.
they've gone up in
Yeah.
price.
the alternator fluid ran
Yeah,
out, so
yeah.
I've got to get that fixed. It's just an expensive fix. It's about justifying it, because I know a lot of guys out there will just say, "Oh, just go turbo 400," and literally for the price of the slipper clutch, you could do a turbo 400 conversion right there. And then
yeah.
I've still got a Magnum and the tail shaft that I could sell.
So-
So I could net break even if I went turbo 400,
You want
but
to touch base on what they roughly cost?
not really.
Not really.
Oh, I can tell you now.
Have you got your like different levels of like slipper clutch as well, or is
Yeah,
it just
correct.
like
So
sort
they're,
of?
well, like I said, the one that I'm looking at specifically isn't just a hard out drag clutch, it's a drag and drive clutch. So, but for the amount of Ks I put on that car, call it 10,000 before it needs a rebuild or a freshen up, that'll take years.
Yeah.
Like it only comes out on weekends. It's not, like I said, I've owned it for 17 years, bought it with 25,000, now it's got
It's
107.
going to be eligible
Yeah.
for coverage
So-
in a couple of years.
But it's still
Yeah,
like
it's
close
scary.
to 10K.
It's
When
scary.
it's all said and done, just for the clutch.
Yep.
But mind you, the Magnum and the tail shaft was about the same amount. But I've had that for a long time as well now. So
Yeah.
you could
Yep.
sell that stuff maybe for $6,000.
Is that a GJ shaft or is it a?
No, that's the Melwood. So
Okay.
it's designed specifically for the Magnum. So it's still,
Okay.
it's all chrome moly, but it's still two-piece.
Yep.
But because again, back then,
So has
you
that
couldn't
got
get
unis on it
anything
then?
else.
Is it uni joints either side or?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
there
like
you
a
go.
factory setup.
Yeah,
Just
bolt in.
Basically, beefed up,
Yeah.
essentially. So
Sick.
for the price that you could sell the Magnum for, sell the tail shaft, you could do a turbo 400 conversion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like to cruise that car. I don't
But
want to be
it's the
sitting at
drivability
3,000
of a
RPM.
manual, yeah. It's
Yeah.
and then 400, you're sitting on the freeways going.
Yeah,
"Brrr."
exactly.
It's revving its head
3,000
off. Yeah.
And that's like me. I'll touch base like on my car. Like I could have done a turbo 400 setup in my car, trans brake the whole lot, but instead I've decided to stay with a ZF and go to get it built instead.
You
what I
want
mean?
to
Exactly
cruise.
what-
You want to cruise it as well too.
Correct.
Yeah?
That's
Cruisability.
So,
but-
There's nothing wrong with them when they're built right. So even
100%.
RVO now, they're doing like 800 kilowatt 4L60s. So
Okay.
literally, and that
take the
with
kids for a
trans
Sunday
brake.
drive. Yep.
So if I was ever going to go auto when I'm old and my leg doesn't clutch anymore, like my knees because they've
Is your is your left calf like a little bit bigger than your right one, or?
Yeah.
Naturally.
That's like how your
Just
right
like my
one
right
sits.
arm's bigger than my left
Yeah,
arm.
yeah,
That's your steering arm, right?
Yeah, correct. Out the window.
yeah. Because one hand's for Snapchat, the other one's for the steering wheel. Yeah.
About him and phones, please. What technology?
So
Speaking of phones, have you had any luck with these phone and mobile cameras, like the seatbelt ones, or?
no,
No?
I'm good.
You're good so far?
Yeah,
Man,
no.
speaking
I'm
of
not
speed
silly
cameras,
enough.
this is a good topic. Have you seen those new fucking German
What the
tank
hell
looking
are they?
Yeah,
things?
it's ridiculous. Looks like something out of
You
Tesla.
can tell they're made in Germany,
Yeah.
clearly, and designed by Germans. They look like
So
a
what
little
is the actual
World War II
purpose of
tank.
them? They speed cameras, phone
Oh, no,
cameras.
no.
This speed.
Safety cameras, bro. Safety cameras.
Safety cameras.
Safety
designed-
cameras.
Yeah.
It's all about safety.
Yeah, but then
It
like,
sits on the bike lane.
yeah,
and
it
it's
sits.
this big silver thing that just looks like it's bloody
Well,
out of, I don't
It
know.
looks like one of those dog wash canopy things on a trailer.
Yeah.
It does actually.
They had one out in the east, and it only took like 3 days for it to get vandalised. Like it got rattle can pink.
Yeah,
okay,
straight
yeah.
over it.
ridiculous, man.
But yeah, they look like a German tank. It's
They're,
like-
they're pretty bad in Canberra too. So as I said before, going to Cootamundra for work,
insane.
I generally fly into Canberra and then drive out to site.
okay.
And you-
Canberra
yeah,
is
you just okay.
cameras
Canberra's
for days.
full of cameras.
Cameras for days.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I
Especially
drove
going there
up-
for summernats.
Yeah.
I drove up
Yeah,
with the
it's bad.
cameraman Harley to Summernats in a Starlet. Keep in mind, it was like 1,200 k's there and back because it's like
Yeah.
600 k's to get to Canberra.
How's
Plus
that?
all the driving we did around,
it's
like
like
going to
7
go watch all the street antiques,
Yeah.
go Braddon and all that. Yeah, man, we did I reckon almost 2,000 k's and the thing didn't miss a beat. And people were like, you drove to Summernats and back in a Starlet? I'm like, yeah.
13-inch wheels and
30-inch
bloody
wheels,
the best.
Loves
fresh white walls.
manual, buddy.
Even when
Yeah.
the oil light comes on, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Dude, that thing
keep
never
going.
had an issue. Okay, look, it was blowing smoke, leaking oil. From the rear main, it was
Hey, if
pissing.
it's leaking
yeah.
oil, you know it's got oil.
Yeah,
exactly
Sweat and
right.
horsepower. Yeah,
So yeah, a little
Well,
bit of lifter rattle probably as well.
I don't know if I was speaking a bit earlier, but speaking of 13-inch wheels, I'm seeing a nice wheel in between the boys here.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Maybe it's
Good-
looking
good-
at us. Yeah. So
I forgot it was there.
Yeah, that's so.
Just keeping
I
you
don't know,
company.
Jarrod. Maybe you want to touch a bit
Lost
of
in
base.
Jesse's eyes.
I don't know if I'm throwing everyone off subject
I know,
here,
you're quite
but
good.
I've been staring at it for a while, and I'm liking it, man. I don't know if you want to fill us in.
Yeah,
a bit.
what is this, an
For
18-inch
people that can't tell,
VYSS
it's
wheel?
not just your average 18-inch VYSS wheel.
20. So I've had.
Shout out to
many-
JMDE.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to JMD on Facebook
Yeah,
and
that's my
stuff.
other
Yeah,
sort
Jarrod
of side
Mills.
business that I'm selling these wheels now. But long story short, I've had heaps of wheels. Yeah, like I said,
Yep.
I've owned this car for that long. I've
Over the
had
years, yep.
Yeah, correct. So I've
Like your
just had pretty much
Sigs, Walkie, Simmons, you
all
know,
of them.
the whole lot, yeah.
not walkies, but
Not-
everything else.
yeah.
And I got them. I was lucky enough to sort of get them when they first came out. So I thrashed them, but then when I saw everyone else starting to get them, that's when I sold them and effectively got good money or my money back for them, and then went on and bought the
Because
next
everyone
set.
wanted them.
Correct, because everyone wanted them by that stage, but they were just 6 months to a year down the track. So I eventually thought, you know what, I'm sick of buying wheels. I've got to do something that's a one-off, an original, never been
OEM
done.
plus,
Correct,
yeah.
OEM plus, exactly right.
Like
I've
the
always
wheels on my
loved-
car, like the CC
Yeah, the
Forged,
CC
but
Forged
they're,
stuff.
CC
but they're
Forged, yeah.
made to suit Brembo, so you don't have to run a bolt-on spacer or something,
Same
yes?
as these.
So
Yep, same as these.
go into depth about your wheels, because
Yeah,
I
man.
see your car here behind us. Obviously, we
it's-
framed the camera perfectly, so you can sort of see the wheels.
Yeah, tough shot.
They're obviously designed, one, they've got really good fitment. Like, they're not overly too flush with the guards, but they don't sit too far in.
Correct.
They look like an original wheel, and you mentioned in the Full Boost video what your inspiration was for them, and they're made for big brake clearance. So, what are
Ticks
they?
all the boxes, yeah. So I did
Yeah.
that on purpose, and like the inspiration obviously came from the green SSX concept car. So you got to
Yep.
remember, you know, I'm close to 40. So back when I was in my, you know, in that 20s, when you can actually start to afford, you know, nice cars and things when you're working,
Yep.
VYs were it. Like that's as soon as I saw a VYSS come out brand new, I thought I'm getting one of them. I love the shape, love the car. So around that same time is when the concept car came out, when you used to have all your big motor shows and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
No, I want one.
The SSX had a 21-inch version of effectively what this wheel is.
Yep.
Off its
And
head.
ever since I saw that, I'm like, yep, I've got to do that
I've
one
gotta
day,
do that.
you know. And then if you remember, and I think he's still around, but Stomp Shop. So he's basically the guy,
Yep.
like he's probably one of the OG artists.
He's
of,
still
like-
doing stuff.
I think
so-
he is.
Okay.
Like all the big photo
Like he's doing
frames
one-offs
and-
for like people and stuff like that. So
Correct, but all of his drawings, it's always the factory wheel blown up.
But,
so you can see
yeah.
VNSS, VPSS,
Yeah.
and they look killer. But it's all
Everyone
about the
seems to be
proportions.
doing it now in a way too, but no,
Yeah.
the
Like you
Yeah.
got like
Some
people
replica
just- yeah,
wheels
yeah.
and all that. Like even I do a bit of work for his website stuff. His name's Frank. He's got FH Classic Auto Parts. He does all VB to like VH
Is that the guy
stuff.
that did the VHSLE 20?
Correct.
Tough.
Yeah,
VHSLE
okay. They
19s.
Yep.
He was
that-
the.
Oh,
yeah.
90, yeah. Okay,
And speaking of Ermishes, because we got a VB back there, he was the original maker of the 19-inch Ermishes
Yeah,
as
there you
well.
go.
So he's
I like
he's
Frank because you can see he's got the proportions.
Yeah,
People
you
just
actually
think
can-
you
you
can
don't just
page
blow
up
it
on a
up.
wheel and
Yep.
it's going to look good.
you got the diameter.
Does not work
yeah,
that way
it's-
at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I was saying before. That once I saw the SSX 21-inch version of that, I thought I'm going to do that one day. Seeing the Stomp Shop stuff, going to do that one day.
Yep.
Got a bit of money behind me, and it probably would have taken a lot less time if it wasn't for COVID. But this project started like pre-COVID, so
Okay, all right. So it's
the
in the works.
process.
Yeah.
I'll try and keep it high level, even though.
So
we've
what
probably
was
got
it about?
time.
5-year project to get
Yeah,
it all
I'd
done?
say
It was
in
always in
total.
your head though, but
Yeah, yeah.
the project itself initially,
correct.
yeah.
It takes time, and that's one thing I learned massively, just even in the whole process. So, effectively, I thought, and being an engineer, I thought the only way to do it properly is to take a factory 18-inch wheel
Yep.
and get it laser scanned, right? So a lot of issues with guys that remake wheels these days, they're just looking at photos. It's an artist's impression. They're trying to redraw what they're looking at. But personally, that's not my method.
You went all over the whole 18-inch wheel, and yeah.
So
Well,
3D
that's
laser
like
scanned.
we'll touch on the walkie wheels. Yeah, the 19-inch ones look like shit. The first gen ones, you could tell the spokes a lot thinner, but when they brought out the second gen, when they started doing
Correct.
the stagger stuff,
Correct.
you could tell they were designed completely differently. They look like the actual shape looks like a walkie wheel. Genuinely looks like a walkie wheel.
It does.
But
And it's
blown up.
proportions. So you'll notice that people, unfortunately,
Said
I
something
guess
come off
the-
trends break.
Yeah,
this
I
is where,
heard-
I heard it.
I heard
Okay,
that
that's
too.
why I paused and I was like, oh, tough.
Yeah, there
See
you
all
go.
the slowly just snap neck. Like where was that?
So
Come past here.
We're waiting for someone to just come wreck it past
someone
the
will.
street.
I'm telling you
yeah,
now, it will happen probably. If it's not a Euro car, it'll be an LS or a barra
Yeah,
or something.
exactly.
But it's
Yeah.
just this street. So it's the whole area actually. But yeah, so no, took an 18, had it laser scanned, so 3D CAD model because that's a process in itself, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of work that goes into that. So I didn't do the rendering myself. I had
Yep.
a subby do that. I'm not that clever. But then once we had that rendering
Oop.
right, it's like, okay, well now the process of...
So an old Porsche.
Porsche.
Yeah, oh, it's the day for it, man. Killer weather. We're stuck here. Like
He's taking the Targa top off, everything.
Air cooled
He was
Porsche.
cruising.
What a baller.
Yeah, so once we had the rendering, I thought, right, well, now it's the time to redesign into a 20-inch wheel. But I already had, it wasn't just about making it a 20. So the factory 18 is 18 by 8 plus 48. So there's no offset in at all.
Yeah.
So, but
So
if
you've
you
got
look
the
at the
20?
design of the spoke, there's actually a way about adding concave. You don't just put concave into a wheel, right? And it's about 12 mil if you punch the numbers. So these are a 20 by 8.5 plus 43. So I can tell you now, off the top of my head, just it's 12 mil concave. But again, proportions. So there's a way, it took a good, I'm going to say 3 to 4 versions before I was happy with the rendering, before I then went to machining. So that's what took, a good 2-3 years.
Not just one and done. It's like,
no, I'm fussy. If I'm going to do this, and
and
the dollars that I spent to get the first, so my set are forged.
Yep.
They're the OGs, they're the first
Probably
ones.
cost you about 4 or 5 grand for the set.
That's just the wheels.
Yeah.
That's not taken into account all the engineering time.
Well, that's like touching on CC Forged. My mate Brandon, he's got Sly Rig, the orange FG.
that looks sick.
He's got a set of forged ones with custom offsets, so he's got
Correct.
mad concave, but his fitment is like perfect,
Yeah.
dialed in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can see there's been time put into those. They do a lot of good Ford stuff.
yeah.
And that's a niche market too, because there's not a lot of guys
Well, like,
doing the Ford
they
stuff.
do-
There are a lot of
The
Holden stuff
G6Es,
getting
I
done.
think they even do the
They
G6E
do 20-inch
wheels.
G6E wheels, shark fins. They
Well, that's
do
one
a
thing I
whole
wanna
lot
do
of
as
one-off
well.
stuff. Yeah,
For my car, I wanted
Like-
to do the bigger inch shark fins on mine.
yeah, that'd be
look
cool.
good.
Because
But-
obviously I wanted to retain the factory shark fin wheels on my car, but obviously going the big upgrade with the power,
yeah,
I had to get rid of the wheels. So I went the Outlaws, but the Outlaws, they're cool, but they're not for everyday use sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're running.
Well, that's why I was
you're running
like,
4.5s in the front. It's the drivability goes. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
that's
Can't
why
do
I was
cheap
saying,
cars.
even if you got an 18-inch, it's not too large, so it's
especially
still
being
nice
an older
to steer.
Falcon like mine.
Yeah, and then worst case scenario, you can put a 18-inch Hero drag slick on it. Yeah, on the back,
them
it'll
all
hook
out.
up on the
Lucky
street.
I know a guy for that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
I know someone. So guys,
Shout
if you
out
need
Portelli
Hero
Tires.
drag radials, hit me up. I do you a special price. But
Actually, to be fair, Sal's got stuff for.
Oh, and Sale Provision, yeah. He's
yeah,
got
well, it's
for
like
sure.
you could get a 20-inch front, and then if you want to run a radial, I know
you go,
Dave.
mate.
He's got a black side mount supercharged wagon.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, he bought a set off.
He bought a set off you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dave Troisi?
Tracy, yeah.
Troisi, I don't know how to
So
pronounce his last name. but yeah,
he's been on the hunt for some 18s to put a drag radial
Yeah,
on
and
the
he's
back
fussy
of his.
like me too, so he wants a Mickey set.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah, his
sent him
car's
a Mickey
immaculate,
set.
that thing.
So yeah, and that
tough.
thing's cool. It's got some big brakes on it.
Yes, it does.
That car sounds crazy too, and it's manual as well.
Yes, it is.
So, and I've been in that car. I think rips. I think hammers. I think we were leaving not show cars. Motor X one year, it was wet, and he had to do a U-turn. He just dumped the clutch and just did a U-turn.
For sure.
It's an easy way to do a turn.
It's just cool seeing a wagon tailed.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
it's just something about seeing this big thing.
Doesn't
that
matter
you
how
shouldn't
old
be
you
doing.
are.
Wagons are
Yeah.
cool, but
It just looks.
Oh, it's
like-
as is
killer.
Caprice.
if you can get a cool
I'm a
car,
Caprice, yeah.
if you can get a cool car in a wagon version, do it.
Yeah.
Like I love VF Clubby wagons. Phew, they're
Yeah.
sick.
I'm trying to convince a mate of mine to get one.
I love them, man.
Yeah,
Because he had a VESS wagon manual years ago, sold it because he moved to Perth for work, came back a long time ago now, but
another
he's
one.
just got a little run around Skoda thing.
Yep.
But I bought my daily, the VF R8, and I'm like, you got to get one of these, but in
Yeah.
a wagon because I know he loves his wagons.
It's a beautiful finish. Like you said, you've
Yeah.
spent a lot of time, hours,
Yeah,
and the
correct.
results speak for themselves. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
the camera can
appreciate
do
it.
the justice.
Nah,
Unless
fun
looking
you
at it,
see them
yeah,
on
You
the
it's-
need
cars.
to see it in person.
Yeah.
It's just yeah,
'Cause,
it's
like I said, proportions.
Keep an eye out if anyone's on the GMH VYVZ Facebook groups.
Yeah.
There's Josh Vandermeer and then there's Shane Tapper, and they both
Yeah,
bought
good
sets
dudes.
off
Yeah,
Jarrod.
Even Jake Camilleri. Is it Jake?
Jake, yeah.
Yeah,
Jake's
Jake.
another one.
Yeah, like when people decide to put like a radial or something. Even I've seen it with an F6 that have the factory FPV 19 on the front,
Yeah,
and then they put an
exactly.
18 on the back with a radial.
Or they-
You wouldn't
Yeah.
even
What-
tell the difference.
What
Yeah,
I'm
it's
toying
sick.
with at the moment is actually getting an 18 and putting a dish on
that's
it.
what I was going to ask you actually.
So machining
Yeah.
it. So right now I've got a 275 radial that does not clear the guards. I'd have to get the VQ or the Showtime.
Oh, the
custom
shorter arms.
Shorten rear end to get them to
To
clear.
fit in the.
Speaking
yeah.
of dished wheels and Showtime Customs, Braden from Queensland with his VZ Senator I did the shoot on.
Yeah.
Yes.
That thing is
Yeah.
mental.
Yeah.
Those
Blades.
HSV wheels are probably the only HSV wheel that you can't get aftermarket.
No, they don't make them.
The
You
HS,
can
I
only
don't
get
even know what they're
genuines.
called. Are they just
I'm
HSV?
just going to call them VF LSA R8.
That's what they are. I
That's
think that's what
what
they
they
are.
look-
VF LSAs.
So what was the dish in the rear?
So
what was it?
I think it's a 20 by 10. It was done by GT Wheels. I think they were down in Melbourne, Queensland. I got no idea.
Yeah.
It was done by GT Wheels, And yeah, I'll pop up a couple photos. I did a shoot on it. The actual article made it into Street Machine. We got a 2-pager with it.
Oh,
So
okay.
got some sick
That was a
photos.
killer video
I
too,
got a
man.
soft spot
That
for
was,
glaze.
yeah,
It's a killer
it's-
colour.
and
the
glaze.
Car,
yeah.
car looks
The
mint.
colour, the car. The only thing it needs is boost. But yeah, that thing.
It's on airbags too, yeah?
Yeah, it's airbagged all round. It's got a built motor by these. I can't even remember the shop in Gold Coast. I feel bad for
not sure
slandering
if
their
I was
name.
gonna say-
I'll put the photo up
We'll-
or something.
we'll
at
go through
least.
it properly and
Shout
put
out
all
to these
the-
boys
all
that
the
helped with
links.
the build
Yeah,
of
all
the
the
car.
links.
Yeah.
But yeah, killer car. And just,
Yeah, it
he's
looks
had that for a few years. He bought it, I think, in Melbourne, then took it to Queensland, and then got it built back down in
Yeah,
Melbourne.
well, Josh Vandermeer, the guy that we were talking about before, who bought a set of wheels off me, he knows that owner. Like you
Okay,
see,
there you go.
as Cal said, in all the HSV, VY, VZ club, or the club VY, VZ, HSV, like all those Facebook pages,
Yep.
it's all the same guys. Like everyone knows everyone because it's all the same people commenting,
Yeah,
or
they
it's
all
all
know
the
each
same
other.
photos. So you start to just know who's who, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, so, you've done a killer job on the wheels, and it
Yeah.
looks sick, so...
Oh, they're beautiful. The fact that these cars too, like a couple more years, are
Identical.
eligible for Club Reg, yeah. Like it's just
Yeah,
something,
it's
like you
insane.
said. You remember when they first came out, and you're like, I want this.
Yeah,
To the
it's
point where they're
Yeah.
coming to the point where I can Club Reg this thing, and that's when
Yeah.
the price rocket will just
like
go
a VXSS
COVID times
can
20.
go on Club Reg next year if you
Yeah,
want it.
like what-
2000 model.
Exactly.
One of
what
the
I mean,
guys
yeah.
that was here a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, because his mates had a VZ Glaze Senator as well, and he
Yeah.
was talking about how VTs and VXs were his thing, and like everyone's got their own
Yeah,
flavour, right? And I said, you know what? That means an SV99 is now eligible for Club Reg this year. I was 2 years old when they came out, so I
unreal.
wasn't old
yeah.
enough, but everyone frothed SV99s when they came out, and suddenly they're 25 years old.
Yeah.
You just-
Yeah.
But then the pricing, I don't know how they're going to go.
VNSS, VPSS.
Well, when I turned
Oh, your
25,
thing,
that's
yeah.
when you know a VY is going to be ready for Club Reg, so...
Yeah, that's scary.
I don't know, like with these though, I don't know, between them and the BXR6 Turbo, especially being the first Fords, I don't know how they're going to go pricing. Are they going to be COVID times 20?
See,
or,
that's
you
the
know,
thing.
I don't, it's...
I don't know.
You don't know. How do you
It's-
I will always attest to BABF and VYVZ was peak Australian
Peak.
manufacturing.
Oh,
For me,
110%.
I know it's an
100%.
opinion, but peak
Nah,
manufacturing.
Well, I'm a
AUVT was
96
peak,
kid
bro.
myself, yeah. So that was when I grew up. It was VA Supercars, Mark Skates,
correct.
Marcus Russell, like
Greg
all
Murphy's
the boys.
lapping the
Yeah.
guys,
It was you
Lounsey
sat
killing
there.
it. Yeah,
I used
Skates.
to get sand down, watch Bathurst, and now it's like, what are
Yep.
they driving today? Teslas or something?
Exactly,
I don't know. What are
yeah,
they
they're
driving? You
all-
know, the Mustangs.
It's a
or,
kit car. They're
It's-
identical.
That was just like the
It's all controlled.
pure,
that was
like...
peak, like yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said,
I know
Greg
you're
Murphy's
motoring.
lap of the guys, it was still H pattern. He was still shifting gears. And he's like, I missed a gear, so I actually had more in his time.
Yeah,
And
and
a
that's
206
our parents
back
still
then was
saw that too.
ridiculous.
It didn't change much. It was just newer, but
Yeah.
now it's like for the generation next on us,
Yeah, the technology.
they'll never know.
No.
They'll never understand.
You know, like the times of like, power up the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, play V8 Supercars.
Yeah, play
Gran
VH
you know what I mean?
Supercars. Yeah.
Yeah. Gran Turismo 4, yep, and you
Yeah.
have like the
That was peak
Monaro
for
in
me.
it and
When
stuff.
both the BAGT
Gran
and the
Turismo,
VY sounded
yeah.
like
And the
vacuum cleaners.
F6 as well was on there, I believe.
They
Yeah.
all sounded the same.
They
They all sounded like Dyson vacuum cleaners.
Man, I remember that, man. Like, booting
Yeah.
up the PlayStation, playing Gran Turismo 4,
that's
just
it.
thrashing the Holdens and stuff.
Yeah, it was
I think VYSS was in it as well.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah,
it was.
it
Yeah, I think it was.
House Green,
Yep.
Yep.
cruise it around.
That was
Yeah,
another
it's
cool thing
sad.
too, is that
It's
I was a lucky enough age. Jarrod was older, obviously, but having it at 8, 9 years old and seeing a car that you grew up seeing on the street, knowing the game's an international thing.
Remember when it came out? Yeah, it's just, and that's a sad reality. In future, the generation coming will never understand the passion that we
Well,
have.
that's like the younger kids. Like, I'm obviously
now.
young, but I'm 21.
But you're enough
yeah?
to when you like you
Imagine
said,
like
with your
being
dad.
a 8-year-old, VFGS just came out, and you're playing a VFGS in Forza. Yeah,
Yeah, it'd be sick.
like you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah,
Like-
it's the. I wouldn't say it's an expectation, but it's what's normal for you.
It makes it like a hero car
So
almost.
that's-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
does.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is, just a new normal. It's funny, so I reckon there's two types of people. Because I'm one of these other types, right? So there's people that have literally had 100 cars in their lifetime. They buy, sell, they don't get attached to shit.
Yep.
And it's about owning as many different cars as you possibly
Yeah.
can. The other person, me,
Attached.
I've literally, I've bought and sold maybe 1 or 2 cars in my life.
I've owned like 3, 4 cars in my lifetime.
Yeah.
That's it.
Everything else
Yeah.
I've kept.
Yeah.
Like-
Well,
Kept.
my EF actually brought back. There was a bit of a story to it. Like I don't know if you see the other podcast. Yeah, I went down, got it from Wodonga. It was there's a whole story
Wodonga?
about it. We've done it. Wagga.
We did
Albury,
it.
Wagga Wagga.
Wagga
Yeah.
Wagga.
Yeah, so
Kinda
like
3 hours between it.
sentimental with cars. Yeah.
So yeah, that car will not go anywhere. Like
Yeah,
it's, yeah.
we
Past
did.
geography
We
in
did
high
a day trip. So he rocked up to my house in his FG Turbo, and then we took my BF up to Wagga Wagga, and he was like, "Bro, go check your Facebook." and he sent me a link. And 7 years to the days when he bought his EF XR6
meant to
turbo,
be, man. Fate,
EF
yeah.
XR6.
So that's not going.
I hold
nowhere,
on to that
man,
sort of
so.
stuff too. It's just,
Yeah.
if it's got some sort of
And
meaning, it's
you know
It's the
what?
story that people know. Yeah,
It was a fluke as well, yeah. He was just like by chance because he knew it was roughly around the same time he bought the car. He didn't know it was to the day. He called up work, took the day off, rocked up to my house. We drove the 5 hours or whatever it
There
was.
and back in the day.
Yeah, we got pulled over by a chick copper in Wagga. She thought we were doing a runner on the RBT,
Yeah, I
but we were just doing
remember
a U-turn to go to where we had to pick up the car. She pulled us over. She was actually pretty good, to be honest. She was mad. Like, she
that's-
full let
that's
us
not
off,
going nowhere, man.
nothing.
That'll be
She was,
to
you
the
know
grave.
what? She was a smart ass at the start. It's like, oh, what are you
Most of
doing
them
here?
are,
I was like, we're here to buy back his old car. Why'd you sell it for? Like,
Yeah, like-
what? And then she ended up being chill, and it was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I was just happy I didn't get a defect,
So-
yeah?
to be fair,
Probably
they're
just
just doing
having
their
a
job.
bad day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just-
Anybody else.
They just thought we were running it, yeah.
Yeah, but that's one thing that will go. I've had that's one thing I've never said to Jesse. I'd love to own, and you boys are making me. I've never owned a V8. I've owned a good 80 to 100 cars in my lifetime. Probably about like 30 FG turbos and like bloody V8. Like, I'm just. So you know what I mean? I've never really lost money. It's always I've made money or broke even. And I've got offered this. Like how I told you boys, I got offered that SS the other day.
That's the other
like,
two types of
it's-
people. Ones that make money selling
So
shit. Ones that lose everything.
back when I was
That's
younger.
why I don't sell stuff, because I always lose money.
Back when I was younger, I lost, yeah. But then obviously you get older,
get
you're
more
not gonna.
experience.
It's not worth it's your passion. But now, like obviously the EF will stay.
And it's like with like time you learn like, okay, is that a good deal? Is it not? Like, you know,
100%, man.
For example,
I
picking
took a
up
lot
a
of losses.
VXSS, like you got offered for $5,000, yeah, like no brainer,
Right.
no brainer. You could sell it as a rusted piece of shit for $8,000 if you wanted
So-
to, yeah.
Say 10 probably.
Yeah, 10.
My biggest regret was honestly, we'll speak about your boys too. Was when I was going to buy a Holden. What was it? It was back in 2011 or 2012. It was a VL genuine BT1. It had like 180,000 Ks. It was all clean, all original, all the books. One owner, and you won 10 grand.
I was going to say 12. That hurts.
10?
Whoa.
10? And I got told, I wouldn't buy that piece of shit for 10. Like, they were, you know what I mean? And
Unreal.
man, today,
10 years later.
if
Yep.
we
12
could
years
all
later.
go back and say, what
Yeah.
if, who, what, when,
Oh,
where, why?
I'll never forget the day. It was, I think,
What about yourselves,
2018.
boys? Have you had any similar?
I had one that got away.
Yep.
I've always wanted a VZ R8. Always.
Okay.
And look, I've been picky. I wanted the 06 model, so it had the different flutes like what's on Jarrod's car now. If
Yep.
keen eyes spot it.
You like those flutes? I prefer the other ones with the slit in the
I
middle.
froth those because
Yeah.
everyone else has got the other ones. This
Yeah.
was exclusive to
That's
06.
for me, it's about, like you said
Yeah.
before, just being different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of those
Pre
things.
COVID days or?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay,
Yeah, it
yes.
was late
2018,
2018, 19.
yeah.
I've still got photos of this car. I'm so dirty.
And you just the one that got away.
Yeah. So this one was an 05, but it had AP racing brakes. It had the sunroof, had stock
Yep.
wheels lowered. 25K this guy wanted. It hurts. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The
Oh,
plates-
yeah.
The plates
And
were literally VZ.
VZ R8. Yeah, I don't know where the car is
Far out.
now,
Shout out, Vass.
but yeah, Vass. He offered it to me, and I had the money there, but I bitched it because I was too scared of what my parents were going to think when I pulled up in the driveway.
I literally tried to convince them for you.
Yeah, I know.
And you
I know.
still
And I
potato.
I didn't take the risk. I was too
Oh,
much
you
of a chicken
potato.
shit. And
You
to
had the
this
money.
day,
You'll kick yourself, man. You'll
And then
be
he bought
bloody-
his
45.50.
Dickhead.
Yeah.
Literally. VZ R8 or that? No
Well, this
brainer.
one's got a blower, so I'm not going to compare.
It's cool.
That's true.
I've already done my little
not a
HSV
VZ
bits in
R8,
this anyway. I've done the
Yeah.
center console, I've done the steering
I
wheel.
just
It's
saw
not
mine.
the same, but still.
What
Well-
about you, Jarrod? You got anything? You one that got away for you, man?
I won't say the one that got away, but the one that I've recently sold.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I don't regret it because it was
Speaking
more
of
like the
VZ8s.
right place, right time type thing. But I had a VZ R8
Yeah.
recently for the last year or two. Yeah, glaze.
Oh.
06. Yeah, the car was tough. Like, I
So
bought it from
almost
WA.
what he wanted. So what color did you want?
I didn't
black.
actually mind. I wanted black.
Yeah.
Yep.
So actually, side note, so we actually made some plates together before he even bought his car.
Yep.
And I gave them to him to put them on this car because of how
Yeah.
nice it was.
Yep.
I
And
sold that recently anyway.
Okay.
yeah, it was.
But I don't, like I said, I don't regret
Speaking of
selling
cars
it.
flashing in Airport West, we just heard RB. Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard
this
that.
whole area, it's just, it's nuts. But it's cool. It's a good spot to be in.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for someone to bake it past the
Oh, actually, you know what? I lie. Now that we're talking, RB, trigger my memory. So
Oh,
There you go. Yeah,
before,
just,
Yes.
before
Yes.
I bought that car. No shit. Before I bought the
We're gonna need a
VY.
photo.
So we're talking 18 years ago.
Yep.
now,
I went
18,
to,
yeah.
I can't even remember what the suburb was, but it was on a Sunday. And I went with a mate of mine that we were talking about before that I'm trying to convince to buy the VF wagon.
Yep.
Yep.
He was hungover, so I drove his car while he was in the passenger seat because I didn't have a car at the time. And I went out to, I'm going to say it wasn't Narry Warren, but definitely East, yeah?
Okay.
R32 GTR.
No way.
Black, all original apart from like an
Wait till you hear the price figure.
Enki wheels,
I'm
you
gonna have a
know,
heart
like
attack.
whatever, HKS exhaust. Car was mint killer, yeah? 100,000 Ks, like, which was nothing back
Yeah.
then. 23K I could have got that car for.
What?
He was asking 26. I could have got it for 23. I've come home and I'm like, Dad, I found a car. Yeah, Skyline GTR, blah, blah, blah. Dad straight away, you're not buying that, it's twin turbo.
I should have just come home with
I
it.
buy the VY, what do I do 5 years later?
Yeah.
Twin turbo the VY. So, but that was literally the car that got away.
Yeah.
Life could have been completely
Dad,
different.
wasn't a petrol head though, so I can understand. He still knew what he was talking about. Enough. Like, I know
I wouldn't have got into tuning. I wouldn't have met all my LS mates.
Yeah,
You know what?
everything
It
happens
was
for
meant
a
to
reason.
be. That's what it is.
Which
It's
is
meant
why I was
be.
happy to have you boys on. We haven't really spoke much about LSs in the podcast, and I've actually been told that you boys are not bringing it up enough. They go, you're bringing up about barras, you're bringing up about
Yeah.
RBs.
Well, you
They're
know
going to
what?
start bringing about LSs, so it's
I
stressed that
reckon-
we got you
I
boys
would
on
have thought the
today.
opposite. I literally would have thought the
No,
opposite.
I got told by some mates, they go, no, you're not talking about LSs enough. What is this? It's a bit, I go,
Yeah.
relax. Like,
Where's your Ford bias, man?
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Well,
Relax, man. If you're a real
I know that you guys are Ford
So-
boys, but again, this is what annoys
but
me.
we're a passion, we love everything, bro.
Yeah,
We have our
exactly.
preference.
Correct.
Yeah.
I will
I don't
never
actually hate
shit.
Fords either. Like Barra turbos for cheap power is sick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you can get
When the
300
V8
kilowatts like
so that
taking
was the other
shit.
thing.
It's just
That was the other thing for me. Again, the whole LS thing, I was at that age where I knew the LSs were going to take off.
Yep.
As soon as I saw the BA turbo, I was like, this is the
Who was it?
VL.
Plasma man,
This
really
is
big
the VL
graphics,
turbo.
Mo, and yeah.
Called it
Straight
straight
up.
away,
I'm like,
yeah.
everyone's going to buy these
That's
things.
like how everyone used to froth of VL colours. Now everyone's like G6E
Yep.
turbo.
The
yeah.
Boss V8,
Same
throw it
thing.
in the bin.
Yeah,
Rubbish.
yeah, that was, yeah.
the 5.4, yeah.
It used to be chap
Rubbish.
laps with VL turbos and go cruise down Williamstown,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Altona.
Now
Now
it's
it's all
all B series
G6E
and F
turbos.
series,
The
Yeah.
fact that you could just put an air filter injectors and a bit of a tune on the cat, you'll make it 300.
Our
Yeah.
oldest brother had one of
Yeah,
each actually.
he had a
So
Ute.
when
Mark
his,
II Ute.
yeah, his
666.
first car that he bought was a Shockwave Blue Mark II BA,
okay.
XR6 Turbo
That was a nice
Ute.
car.
Now that back in the day when you had, was it SCT, the tuning software back then?
Yep.
Yep.
So APS.
The
Yeah,
little
so
scanner.
shout out to Lewis at APS.
Yep.
That was injectors, intake, and high flow cat and res delete or something, right?
Muffler, middle muffler delete.
Middle
They
muffler
made
delete.
310 on a roller.
There you go.
And that was
this
17,
thing-
factory 17s because it was a Mark
This
II.
thing ripped.
It ripped.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I love driving that
Simple.
car.
Just
Yeah.
it ripped.
Not that I didn't drive it on my Pete.
It had the, I mean, you guys
It was
correct
a
me if
sick
I'm wrong,
car.
right? But I think so when they went the FG, they went a slightly smaller turbo, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes,
I think
yeah,
the
yeah,
BA2
but they kept
had
the 82 in the F6, but yeah, the FG they went the 3576.
Is that
That's
because it
right.
was better
It was
spooling
3582 was
Yeah,
the
it
other
come
one.
on harder, but obviously at top end they kind of choked out. Obviously
Yeah.
being
Yeah,
such
like
a-
they'd
but
hit
they-
18 pounds and then just die in the
Yeah,
arms.
yeah.
Yep.
Because I mean,
So-
I don't really tune those things. A lot of people
Everyone's got the area, yeah.
Well,
So,
people
yeah.
have asked me to tune them, and honestly, I could because I do have both. So for those of you who don't know, like LS stuff, I mean, HP tuners tunes everything. Doesn't matter if it's like Chrysler, so Jeep, Ford, Holden, like HP tuners does everything, yeah.
Yep.
But one thing people need to understand, not that they care, but I'll tell you anyway.
They focus on some areas.
Correct. You've got your area of expertise. Mine's definitely LS, but I use EFI Live. So if you think of it as, you know, and I know
Android
that,
and Apple.
exactly.
Is how you
That's
explain
exactly
it.
what it
Yeah.
is. So EFI Live, similar to PCM Tech for Ford, that is your Android. Why? Because it is reverse engineered factory data. Whereas HP tuners, they do use a lot of that same
Yep.
file, like binary, but they
Parameters.
they write their own operating systems over the top, so they make stuff simpler.
They know what works
Hence-
for them, like you know what works
Correct.
for
They
you.
make it simpler.
Yeah.
Hence why I relate that to iPhone because it's designed to be simple.
Simpler.
So
Better to use, yeah.
like there's because I mean both of these cars are factory ECU
Computers, yeah.
as well. You don't
Oh,
need
okay.
yeah you don't need like
Beautiful.
all the big
And keep in mind, that's E85 as well, so he's
Yeah.
going to put a bit of extra effort into
1,000
that.
horsepower,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's nothing to sleep on. Yeah, exactly.
I do want to go a Haltech, I must admit, because it's
What's the plug and play now? The Rebel, is it?
no. So the Rebel is designed for a conversion car.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
if you've got like a Tirana or
Okay,
whatever,
yep,
full
yep.
swap out.
Yep.
What would work on these cars because these cars still have a body control module. So the
Okay.
Ford stuff would be the same, but unlike the Ford where you've literally got a plug and play now, which is killer.
Elite Pro plugin or something, right? Is
Yeah,
that-
Elite,
is that what it
yeah.
is?
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's
what
sick.
they've
When I
got
pass from
now-
Japan,
yeah.
Yeah.
So they've got what they call
New
the
South Wales.
S2 and the S3. So that
Okay.
has replaced the Elite 1500 and the Elite 2500. So
Okay.
it would be designed as a piggyback. So you get the S3, you would keep the body control module, which would do
Still
all
running,
of your...
yeah. And
Correct.
then
So then the S3 would purely do the engine side of things. So the main reason why you would go to that ECU is just for safeties. So any of these ECUs can make the power.
Yep.
Straight up. Like that's why you see Barra stuff making 1,000 horsepower using PCM
honest,
Tech.
yeah.
Honestly. But it's the safety. So those, I mean, PCM Tech might have more function, but you know the LS1 stuff's getting pretty old now. So that car, that's the only risk right now. If the fuel pressure drops off, if the pump dies, if the oil pressure drops off, I've got no safeties that'll shut the engine off.
Yep.
That's the main reason why I want to go Haltech. So it'll still make
Okay.
the power.
At your power level,
But
especially.
it's-
yeah.
it's-
But the Haltech
safeties.
tells you everything. Yeah, I've noticed that too. They tell you, yeah, they tell you.
Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
band-aid a lot of stuff to protect it, which is yeah,
100%.
that's where the
Yeah,
money is.
that's the main one. So not only the safeties, but you know, like I said in the full boost video, that car's got all the various modules. So I've got, an aftermarket 2-step with a button. I've got, the cutouts on the exhaust. So
For the
all
valves,
that stuff.
but they're pressure regulated, so when you get to a certain RPM, then they
You
open
could
up.
set that, yes. Whereas
Yep.
my cutouts are just on a switch.
Oh, they're just on switch. Okay.
Just
Yeah.
electronic.
Just a heavy
But
button.
you could set it up through the ECU to hit either a certain boost and open. So
Yeah.
that power run that made 760 kilowatts or whatever, so 10, 20 horsepower or something, that was with the cutouts closed.
Okay.
Yeah, so and that's
wow,
obviously
okay.
it's a
Yeah,
full
so it's a
exhaust
bit more
system.
Yep.
I never actually did a run with the cutouts open, which guaranteed would probably show 23, 24 pound
Yep.
because you don't have the back pressure of the
Yep.
exhaust behind it. So it would have definitely made another 20 more, I reckon. Easily.
100%,
Like, and that's
100%.
being generous. Like 10 kilowatts per 1 PSI of boost is like where you would say, oh, I'm going to stop pushing it now. But optimally, it's about 15 to 20 kilowatts per pound.
There you
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
a rule of thumb.
We've touched base a lot on Callum's car, but we haven't touched base on yours yet. And we're also just talking about how much we've just talked shit about barras. So we've said it's got a T56 Magnum.
Mm-hmm.
What's the bottom end setup on this?
So the bottom end only recently had a freshen up by Northvic, so it's still 5.7.
Yep.
But it's like 30 thou over, so it's actually like a true 5.7 now. So factory, these things are actually like a 5.65 litre.
Yep.
But when you go the 30 thou over, it's a custom piston. I think it's like CP pistons with I'm going to say Manly rod. So
Yep.
nothing fancy.
Yep.
It's the entry level Northvic forged crank.
Yep.
Because the factory crank, sadly, nothing wrong with it. But the snout was like it spun on the balancer. It was key
Okay.
weight. So how
Yeah.
I don't know how I did it, to be honest. Shit happens. So then, basic bottom end only cost like 10 grand, nothing fancy at all. But I already had mast heads. So in the LS world, mast heads are probably up there with all the Frankenstein stuff. So when you're talking like max effort LS stuff, out of
And
the
still
States,
cathedral port.
and
Yeah.
still cathedral
Yep.
port. Exactly, that's why it's got the LS2 factory intake. Again, we spoke before about the
More
whole Holly
airflow
thing.
on a budget. You don't need a fast manifold.
No, not. This thing 6.8, 7,000 RPM peak.
Just sing.
So I don't. It doesn't sing because it doesn't need to. Like
Yeah.
the power band is literally 4 to call it 4 to 6.5.
Well, I heard you
But it's-
coming in before, yeah.
I had the car. I was cheeky. I had the cutouts open because it does sound sick with the cutouts open.
Wish I was there.
It
But I
does.
do. Yeah.
I got
Unfortunately,
excited.
it does. It sounds good. Like I
That's a
don't
good
have
car.
screamer pipes on that car. I don't feel there's a need. Just
I don't feel
because-
like you need to, man.
But
Like you're
still
taking the full boost
externally-
video.
Correct. Cutouts
Yeah.
open.
So still externally gated?
It is still external gate.
Yep.
But I've plumbed it back.
Plumbed
Yep,
it in.
gotcha.
So there's no
So
screamer
technically it's legal.
pipe. It is external gate. I could make it external gate if I wanted to. Sal would probably hate me because the amount of fab he had to pie cut everything. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. If only you could put gates on a valve, yeah?
A lot of people, I've heard people
Well,
doing
they've
it for
got-
track days. I've heard
Yeah.
of people doing it for track.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You
But
could.
that'd just be a pain in the ass. Another switch you need.
The only issue would
that's
be
right.
the valve itself has to be like 1.5 or 2 inch. So I don't think you can actually get anything that
Yeah,
small.
nah.
Because all of the exhaust cutouts, it's like 2.5 minimum. 2, 3, 3.5, whatever. So that would be the only issue I see. But again, I don't need it because I've got cutouts. Literally, there's the turbo. The cutouts are straight off it, so you
And
don't
considering
need,
there's so much going on with this car, the actual engine bay is very minimalistic.
It does look neat-ish, but
Oh,
to me
man,
it's still messy.
Yeah.
But if you go the Haltech, you clean all that shit up because everything will just be included in one loom.
Yep.
Even though I do have like a mate of mine, Big Mikey we call him, brain,
Wizard.
like genius.
Yeah.
He's one of these wizards
Absolute
with
wizard.
electronics. Yeah, so we're already talking about. I'm going to use the factory steering wheel control, so like the mode, the mute button, which I don't use anyway.
Yep.
But as well as the volume up and down, and the idea is to use. So I've got like 2-step on the car.
Yep.
So one will be like rolling anti-lag. The other one will be like boost
killer.
scramble.
Yeah. Oh,
Sort of like how you'd use with PCM Tech to control,
Yeah,
what,
exactly
what
right, same thing.
What tune do you
Yeah,
want? Do you want low
same
boost,
thing.
mid boost, high boost, rolling
Correct.
anti-lag? You
Yeah.
can all do that through the steering wheel control.
Yes,
so
correct. So on this car, you can't do that through the software.
Yep.
But
But once you
Mikey's
get
going to
Haltech?
build, or if you got a Haltech, you
Yeah.
could probably do it. But Mikey's going to build me a little board. Like I said, just clever dude. Yeah, all the electronic stuff. He's going to build like an Arduino board where we're going to check the voltage
Yep.
of what the buttons, like the resistance,
Signal
send
voltage,
to
yeah.
the head unit. So what you would do is if the head unit's on, buttons work as factory because
Oh, that's
the
grouse. That's
So
all-
switch
that's
the
awesome.
head
But
unit
then
off.
turn the
I
head
love
unit
that
off.
OEM. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's a
That's
brain.
all. That's awesome.
Turn the,
That's
the
cool.
radio off, which I don't listen to anyway. That's the only bog stock thing on this car, the stereo. I've not touched it. 'cause I
No
don't listen to
speakers,
it.
nothing.
Don't
Oh,
need to.
okay.
Don't
Factory
want to.
speakers,
No,
yeah.
no, when I'm driving that car, I'm driving that car, yeah.
Yeah.
But then use the buttons with the stereo off to then control, like I said,
That,
boost
that is
scramble.
killer. That is, yeah.
The,
To
That's
know
cool.
that, yeah.
But this is the coolest part. Volume up will open the cutouts. volume down, we'll close the car.
That is awesome, man.
When he
That
told
is-
me
that
that, I'm
is-
like, bro, when are we doing it?
That's
clever.
done.
I was like, yeah, killer.
Yeah,
I had to.
that is
so that's
awesome.
going to happen now.
Imagine you could like program through the head unit that the dial for the volume is like your boost.
I
as well.
guarantee you he could do something.
Oh yeah, well
He
think
could
about
do
it. It's all
something.
sync
That is
now.
awesome, man.
He's
I want
a
to see
brain.
this. That's hopefully in the future
That's
episode
cool.
No,
when we
that's
have
gonna be.
one.
Yeah, we're doing that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I only spoke to him a few days ago.
We're definitely coming back for another podcast once because you're planning to do a proper dyno room setup soon with
Yeah.
all the hex lights
Yep.
and everything.
All right.
Exactly.
intended.
So this whole area that you see behind us, essentially up to where the VB is.
Yeah, it's gonna be
that'll
big,
all
big
be
setup.
boxed in.
Okay.
With
the
so
exhaust
hex
fan,
lights.
all
well,
that.
so
Yeah,
I'm really digging the max performance dyno cell. I reckon that just looks killer.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the inspiration there. But I want to do it'll be simple, just a wall and a roof over the top with a mez, store stuff up the top.
Yep.
But the hex lights, but then the foam, like the foam soundproof panels that you would see in like a music booth.
Yep.
Just because here on a weekend, like unfortunately, some of the other guys that work here during the week, they won't come in on a Saturday anymore because it's too loud. Like you're trying to work with headphones on, it's ugly, just because of the sheer noise. Whereas when you put a wall up, put the panels in,
It will help.
theoretically it should
Yeah.
be all the noise should be contained in the cell,
Yep.
and that's actually a lot better for tuning anyway because you need to be, you got to be listening to
Listen to
everything.
it.
You need to know if the engine's
Speaking of
pinging,
this, yeah.
like it's
Yeah. One time, I was speaking of listening now, you just reminded me. I can't remember the guy's name. All I remember was it was an AU with an Intec turbo, and this guy had the laptop. Yeah, it was a killer setup, and I remember he had a pair of headphones and he had a plug to it. I go, what's that for? And he goes, it's so when I'm driving, I can listen to the block.
listening for knock.
I go, no way. And he goes, yeah, and he's driving along playing with the laptop, and I was like,
nothing
that is, yeah.
I do have it.
Mad.
I've only used it maybe like one. Yeah, so there's a very old school method of literally just like a doctor's stethoscope.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he
The
was just driving
tube
along.
straight
yeah.
to like the old
And this thing
screwdriver
ripped.
trick. Like
This
that's
thing ripped, man.
old school stuff. But these days they do have what they call knock ears. So it's effectively put in a normal set of headphones to a little module that is plugged in with its own knock sensor bolted to the block.
Yeah, that's
So
yeah,
you can just be listening to.
He had that, man.
Wow.
I forget his
Yeah.
name.
Killer.
I forget the dude, grouse bloke, but yeah, it was an AU. It was an AU looked stock as. He had the Intec turbo, 6-speed manual behind it, and this thing was an animal. He took me for a drive in it, man. This thing, I was dumbfounded. Like the way that it went.
Yeah, well, that's the
just-
plan
yeah,
for that car. Like we said
So-
before, it's only a basic bottom end. We've got the Magnum gearbox that we said, the tail shaft, but the diff is stock, drive shafts are stock. Because if
Like you
anything
said, they're
blows
nice.
up,
Yeah, they're
that's
nice.
what I want to
yeah.
blow up.
Yeah.
Other than that, man, it's just got the brakes, like big brakes from the Corvette, the Z06.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
those
the
PBRs
brakes,
are
you've
mad.
got to be able to stop. That's the one thing. People
Been
talk-
re-sprayed once in its lifetime, hasn't it too? Yeah.
Sorry,
Has it been re-sprayed?
It no, it hasn't been. No, it's been counterweighted for the suspension, but I actually don't know the total weight of the car.
Oh, okay.
I could get
I meant
scales.
re-sprayed.
Yeah,
sorry.
so it
I
has
thought-
been, it's been sprayed.
Sorry,
weighed.
no.
I thought you said
Sorry.
weighed, my bad.
No, you're right.
No, it has been re-sprayed.
Yeah, I was
yes.
gonna say.
In what's it called? Nitrate.
Yeah, the
Nitrate
the
VF Silver.
VF
Okay.
So
HSV,
you'll
yeah.
see
Silver.
it's got more of a blue to it than that. That's
Yeah,
you can
that's
see
more
it's got more
metallic.
of just like a
It's a
gunmetal.
grey. Yeah, correct. It's a grey silver.
You can
They're
see
both-
straight
they're both
away on the
beautiful,
light.
yeah, but
It's
I'm
got
just-
more
yeah.
of a blue to it, especially with the light and the
Yeah.
reflecting
And more
everything.
metallic too.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's almost got more of like a yellowy to it.
Yeah,
compared
well,
to
you know
us.
what? I did that on purpose because it's the most. Well, it is the last silver of HSV, right? That's the cars they don't make them anymore.
No.
So I wanted something modern. I do like the amount of additional metallic in it, and I find, these things they're getting on a bit now. So you got to remember, even just standard paint fade, they do look a bit dull. They look faded.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's every car. Yeah, they're not going to pop. If you get it detailed, it'll help. But the paint underneath it clear, it's still, they pigment. So for when I resprayed it, I had to. Unfortunately, there was a lot of various marks, and anyone that knows silver, you can't just do a guard or
Yeah.
a door.
Yeah, good luck blending it.
You got to blend the whole side
You're
of the car.
50 Shades of Grey going on pretty much.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
50
You know
shades
what
of
I mean?
ego
So-
grey. Yeah.
So I made the decision, did the full closed door in the
No, it looks awesome,
in
man.
the nitrate, but now it's been detailed, ceramic coated, so it is easy to keep clean. I literally just rinsed it before coming out. I
Okay.
get the little Ryobi,
Yeah.
shop blower and just blow
Yeah,
it off
just-
because I don't want to
yeah.
touch it with to
Beautiful.
not scratch it up. So yeah, no. Apart from that, it's
Yeah.
all the like I said, all the fancy buttons and stuff.
Yeah.
But the power
It's
that
the new
this is
future
the
and-
power that it made for what's done to it. That's what. Again, the whole engineering thing.
fact,
Is
it's
that
still
the
a
most
5.7.
power you've actually had on this dyno? Because I know you've got a hub dyno. You used to be on a roller dyno, yes?
Correct.
So now you're on the hub.
Yep.
Is this the most power you've had?
No. We've done other cars that were like 850, 900 kilowatts.
Yep.
I can't say whose cars they
That's
were.
fine.
Did
Yeah,
you?
that's-
So did you do a Alice Turbo Chevelle a little bit ago? A red one?
Yeah, Johnny's thing.
Yeah, because he does come to my cars and coffees now. I've seen
Yes,
the
he
little
does.
AccelGarage sticker on the back of
Yeah,
it
he's
as
got
well.
the old school sticker
Yeah.
because it does suit the car.
Yeah.
That's how that original font was sort of born. It's that old
Yep.
muscle car
Yep.
sort of look, which is, if you look up the back, that's the actual font. It's the old
Yep.
old design, which I did freshen up a couple of years ago. But yeah, no, that Chevelle, that's an LS3 single turbo.
So
Was all
6.2 single turbo, yeah.
Yep,
there you
all
go.
fabricated in-house, factory 6L80.
So hold on, do
again.
you do fabrication here or the Sal from Provision?
Sal across the road does all the fab for us,
Yep.
which is killer because it's basically the same thing as having like an
Quick,
in-house
push the car across the
fabricator.
road.
But pretty much. I mean, coming up and down the
Literally.
driveway is a pain in the dick. But he's a gun. Like I said, all my car, it's all pie cuts because you can't physically get the radius bends.
Another
around
car
there.
raping some
Oh, I told-
tyres.
yeah.
Another
Yeah,
RB.
yeah,
I think it was that same RB
Yeah,
from
it
earlier.
sounds like it, yeah. But he does all mechanical work too. So
Yeah.
Sal actually does a lot of barra stuff.
Okay. All right.
And
there you go.
he wants to get into tuning himself.
He's got an FG himself as
So
well.
he's he's got the
Yeah,
GT,
GT.
FPV GT.
Okay.
That's got some plans, which is cool. So that'll
It's different. That's what
well,
I mean. Yeah, everyone's just
FPV
barra turbo
GT.
this or Alice that. So
that rips that thing for what's
We-
done to it. that
We
rips.
touched on Max Performance literally just a second ago. Max, my mate goes through Max a fair bit, but one of their customers have got a white FPV GT, but it's rear mount twin turbo setup or mid mount.
Ooh.
That thing
Yeah,
is a
it's killer.
sleeper.
Yeah.
Like
I
I've
love
seen
the
it.
different too, man. It's not. I love when it's
Yeah.
different. It's
I've
cool.
seen it
it's-
on the street, and he's just giving it a hit, and bro, you would be scared to line up next to that.
Yeah.
Like that thing is
As
an
soon as you hear
animal.
it, yeah.
Oh yeah.
The best thing about having it mounted at the rear is generally, and turbos in general, they are theoretically a muffler. So they're not ridiculously loud, it just straight piped. Like you can sort of get it. I mean, it's droney. If you don't like drone, you can't get away. Like even this, I can open the valves and just cruise down the highway.
Yep.
Because it sounds the same as just like a HQ with dumped at the diff.
Yeah.
Like it's that
Yep.
sort of same vibe. But you get, that white thing, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd do something like that one
Fuck
day.
yeah.
But I'd do it in a ute.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah,
I'd
do
have
it, Chris.
turbos
Put
in
it
the
straight
tray,
in the tub. Put a
in the
cardboard
tray.
box over it.
So literally like a factory
do it
exhaust
esky.
system.
Sub box. Nah.
Have it
No,
come
do
up,
an esky. Do a big
punch,
esky and
turbo,
put
and
the
then
turbo
back
in
down and
there.
out the back. And then just put the hardliner on, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be killer.
Speaking
Well,
of
that's-
white cars, Steve, never over his VT, probably one of my
Yes.
favourite cars. Well, I'm a sucker for like a VT, VY, 9C1 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that car is sick. So that's an ex-cop car, correct?
Yes, it was. And he's still got that car. That's about to get a freshen up because he's done the conversion from 4L60 to Turbo 400.
Yep. It's being tubbed by Showtime as well.
Yep, so that's got FR22s on it.
It's
That
spastic.
thing it's like
Yeah.
22 by 12 on
It's
the
got
back.
Harrod,
nuts.
Harrod brakes in the front,
Wow.
I think.
Yes, it will.
does it?
It will. Yeah.
Or it
'cause
will.
I did that at the same time you got the lid.
Oh,
Yeah.
killer. Yeah, that's what I said. It's getting an overhaul
and that's
at the moment.
LSA blower as well.
Yeah,
so
similar to this
setup
car. So that
Oh,
car
right, yep.
was. So when I first did that car, it was I think heads cam with the 4L60. So tuned it that way, and then like everybody, you get the bug, you get bored, you get itchy, whatever.
You
And
get
then
gapped, you want more power.
he found the blower,
Yeah.
and then we did the blower conversion on that, and that through the store converter still made 405, 410, butt
Yeah,
rips.
that's
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it's and this is the thing, right? With people, unfortunately now they're so, especially with hub dynos, because it does read higher than rollers. People forget that. It's a good 10 to 15%.
It's more of an accurate hub, like more.
That's why we did it.
Yeah,
it's
and
accuracy.
like,
Just-
be prepared if you throw your car on a hub dyno, it might break something. Like, you know what I mean? It's-
yeah, we've had a couple of pucker
Like, you know what I
moments,
mean?
definitely
Like,
shafts and things like that.
It's
which
like
is not fun.
comparing a roller dyno to the street and the hub dyno being a fully prepped drag strip.
Yeah, well, the main, accuracy, all the new dynos, you're still within 1 kilowatt per run. So you can't just say it's all about accuracy. For me, it's about safety.
Yep.
So, on a roller dyno, you'll see cars that, guys are just cowboys, they'll strap them down, but they're still coming like, I'm
They'll
ready
still
for this thing.
launch.
They launch off, and I'm personally not a fan of it. People call me a pussy, whatever, I don't care. It's just about safety. I don't want to
Yeah.
be, I've nearly come off the chocks once on the old roller dyno, like the car basically come up over the stop and nearly took off through
Okay.
so I was
No,
like,
it's-
after that happened,
And then,
no
like, fourth gear is probably primarily what you dyno in if you're in, like, say,
it's
a
always
manual.
fourth gear.
Yeah,
It's always
one to
fourth
one.
gear. So basically, whatever the 1-to-1 gear ratio is.
Yeah.
So all manuals, it's usually always fourth gear.
Yep.
But in autos, it can vary between third and fourth.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just whatever ratio. Is
But
closest
imagine
to
you're like
1-to-1.
midway through a power and send. You're fucked.
Well, basically that's what happened. That's why I made the decision to go with hubs with my business partner Richie, because we had a how big was Daniel's motor? 540 cube in the black Chevelle.
Oh, jeez. It was
I
up
think
there.
it was a 540 kilo.
Yeah.
This thing was like, 700 horsepower, which doesn't sound like much, but it's 700 foot-pound of torque.
Yes.
So that car, and it had dumps at the diff. So basically the exhaust melted the strap. So it burnt
Oh,
the strap
no.
during the run.
Yep.
So the strap snapped, and that's why the car took off. So
And that was the call for you.
that was for me. No more, never again.
But
So
it
went
was-
to hubs for a few various
Did,
reasons.
did it turn out as worse as you think it would, or you saved it, or
Saved it.
Yeah, okay.
Just.
just
Arsehole, pucker moment. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely shat
Rightfully so.
myself.
that? Yeah.
Because
Rightfully
you got to
so.
remember, like the amount of money people spend on these cars, you
Yeah.
don't want to it's their baby.
And for something like that to happen is sheer fucking luck.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
Like,
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but that's,
you
I
had that-
guarantee
you
you
had
there'd be
that
videos
call?
out there. You see all those YouTube like dyno fails and shit?
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Not for me.
Like I hate.
Not
Do you
for
know what dynos I hate?
Terrified.
Like those hoist ones.
Yeah, it's American.
Yeah, that's such an American thing.
Yeah, it's all the
but
dyno
disgusting.
jet where they basically just have them literally on a hoist
Yeah,
because
and they just-
they're
yeah.
all elevated. Which look, I'm not totally against it, to be honest. The main reason being that all of our roller dynos that aren't flat, where you're coming up the ramps, you got to remember the engine is actually on an incline.
Yep.
So if your oil pickup in the sump is at the back, you're probably
You're
starving,
starving
the engine
of
of
oil.
So if your pickup's at the front, no problem.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, hubs, you're level.
Yep.
So there's a few reasons. It's safety, it's accuracy. I think, better for the engine in general. But also, you got to remember these guys will bring you cars that make 600 horsepower on Chinese tyres that are on belts because they're skid pigs.
Yep.
Try and do that on a chassis dyno, scared shitless at the tyres, just going to go.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not about that sort of stuff. It's all
So it's
the
a whole
Wheels off,
factors
bolted
put
to the
together.
There's a
hubs.
lot of stuff that
Take that
rolls
away
into
from
it.
it, yeah.
And
Well,
people
they
have their
bring higher,
opinions,
I don't
and that's
care
it. But
about the
that
whole-
works for you.
It's
So
numbers. So that's what I said before. The whole 400 kilowatt, 500 kilowatts, 600 kilowatt thing. People's dailies now are 600 kilowatts.
Yeah,
legit.
it's-
E85 just
Yeah.
makes it so easy. So, but people I don't think understand 500 kilowatts in a blower car
Is nuts.
is crazy. It's literally crazy. Like you can be all over the road. If you don't know how to steer, you're going to
V6
end up.
Mang?
Wait for it.
Oh no, it's a Honda.
A Honda legend.
yeah.
Different.
Never would have
I think
thought
you
I'd
get
see one.
everything. So you get
Yeah,
everything
I
I
right.
didn't know what it
All
was when it
things.
was coming. I was like, what is this thing?
On vehicle count, we've got a Honda Legend. We've had a Porsche with a Targa top.
Yep.
That
911,
they can't
and we've
forget
had
the
a
V8.
V6
The
Mang
Mang
wagon.
wagon.
And,
The Mang wagon. Yeah,
I'm
it's
surprised
everything
there hasn't
right
been that many cars that cruise past, to be honest.
no,
It's
what,
quite
any
quiet.
other topics, Jesse, that we?
Yeah, so I just whipped out the good old book.
Yeah, no, cool.
That's
currently the Aston
because
Copy.
So we've actually gone through a lot of these. We've actually gone through a lot of these just talking shit. Yeah.
Correct.
So like we talked about Steve's
Shot
VT, future plans with
Wheel.
the cars, like the wheels, all that sort of stuff we want to talk about. Both the cars build setup. Dream cars, we've kind of touched on that, like cars
Ones
that
that
we've
got
let
away,
go of and
VZR,
whatever.
right, definitely.
Like power on the dyno, how much power your cars made, the 20-inch wheels. What are some of the worst cars to work on, you reckon?
Worst cars to work on besides mine.
Yeah.
It's a love hate.
You,
Yeah,
laugh,
yeah.
you laugh about it, right? But if you're the one working on it, you're hating life. So
Yeah.
shout out to Azza and Richie because they've done it over the last however many years.
And-
And Sal.
To touch on that, they've got mad PTSD with my
Lou.
car coming up because of
All
how
boys.
painful his car was to work on. They just think twin
It's
turbo.
not fun
it's
to
gonna be the
work on
same as
that car.
Jarrod's.
It's basically, like I said in the full boost video again, it's to work on that car, drop the motor out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still do all your normal service stuff, oil plugs, easy. You don't have to go removing dump pipes. Like, it's all easily accessed because of the log setup. But anything else on that car is a pain in the dick. So other
Yep.
cars, though, it's unfortunate, like I mentioned before, that other workshops that just don't have, they might not be the LS experts. So
Yeah.
they might be a mate of someone that owns an LS. So they go to their mate, get the car worked on, and they just unfortunately don't know, or they just don't specialise in it, right? So there's a lot of things that, as I said before, the car comes in for a tune, and you literally spend
Speak
2
to your
hours
tuner.
just diagnosing simple stuff.
Like we said right at the start of the podcast, we said the communication.
Correct.
Not just only with cars, with anything.
Yeah.
So
They're the
with
ones,
anything,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, with anything, right? They're the ones that are the biggest pain in the ass to
Yeah.
work on, honestly.
That's it.
But yeah, we're getting to the stage now where, unfortunately, you do start to say, like, guys, this is the third, fourth car in a row, and you're not listening to us. So you do tend to get to that point where you're just like, maybe it's not worth
Deal
the
with
headache
these.
and dealing with it. You just bring everything back in house. That's why I said it's awesome to have Sal across the road. So any
Yeah.
fabrication work, you're
Work
not
with each other,
outsourcing.
you're laughing.
Correct. You got to get that sort of in it, and that's workshops. 15 years ago, everything used to be done in house. You always had a sparky, you had your fabricator, you had your mechanic.
Now it's all like subby stuff.
Everything's
Yeah,
just subbies.
exactly.
Everything is outsourced. I guarantee you. Apart from big workshops like APS, MPW, like all the guys that are top of their game and will be forever because they're just good
High
at what
talk
they
in
do.
Queensland, yeah.
You know, they do have everyone in-house because they're at that level where they can't
can.
actually
The
afford
good old saying, if it ain't broke, don't
to
fix.
outsource.
You know what I mean? So
Whereas the smaller
Don't have
workshops,
to reinvent the
you
wheel,
still have
man.
to
Yeah.
outsource.
I mean,
Some of your favourite cars you've had
See
on the
what you did
dyno?
there.
What are some of your favourite cars you've had on the dyno? Like, I know you've had some pretty sick cars. You did Brent's car, didn't you, as well, the VX GTS?
I haven't tuned it. We've definitely done health checks on it, and I've told him what I think needs to be done with it, but that's been tuned by somewhere else.
Okay, so I thought that was tuned here, never mind.
No, we just ran it up for him, as I said, just more of a health check thing, because that's the other thing too. Other workshops, it's all about people these days. Just you pay for convenience, yeah. So, you know, if I ring up the workshop that
Convenience
tuned the car
demand,
previously, it's like, oh no, I just want to do a power on health check. Oh yeah, bring it back in 3-4 weeks. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to bring it back in 3-4 weeks.
But-
People are happy to pay now, and they don't care what it costs because people
supply and demand.
people just want things now,
Yeah.
right? So we do
No, yesterday.
favours for. I mean, there's even other workshops that'll rent the dyno
Yep.
off us, but that's
Okay.
something we
Yep.
don't advertise. So there's other workshops that'll rent the hubs off
Yep.
us that again we don't.
Because some people can't afford to have a hub, yeah? It's like $100,000 dyno, for
That-
instance, yeah?
exactly.
Like,
So-
not everyone has that
Correct.
money to play with. Like, I know Amph's not here, but I'll say that for him for his 2 cents. That CK just got their hub dyno recently
Yep.
as well. Like, obviously, that's a big move when you have a shop, yeah? Some people can start off with a hub dyno
Yeah, well,
straight
CK's
away.
only a couple of streets that way.
Yeah, CK's literally just
Yeah,
next
so you
to the
got
car
those
wash.
over there. You got CK up here. So CK actually, there was a car that we tuned, Pete's yellow VN.
Okay, yes.
And that was factory. So another one, 5.7. That was a built motor, but
That's
it had,
got an LSA blower on it, yeah?
Yep, I think it still does. So basically, Pete sold turbo 400.
Yep.
That car ran
He ran at a
940
Calder, yeah.
at 100 and he ran it at Heathcote.
He
So
did
that's
take it to Calder
940
for
at
roll
100
racing, but he did take it roll racing.
143.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, 943 to 143 for
So it's
memory.
moving. Yeah.
Yeah, killer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Factory
sick.
LS1 computer, like car was sick.
Yeah.
There's dyno videos and stuff of it. It just lifts the front end, proper setup, 90-10 shock slicks.
Yeah.
yeah, whoever the new owner is having a great
But
time.
Pete sold it to a guy that they've now at CK done a Haltech conversion. So
Okay.
I don't know if it's been raced again since. But I'll be interested to see what the Haltech has
Speaking of
done
racing-
for that car.
Have you actually ever had a full pass in this car or no?
Yeah, I have. Like years ago, again, I just stopped racing because I just kept breaking shit. So
Yep.
He blew
Insert,
wicked.
insert the
Blew
photo of
T56
it
up.
on the tow truck at Heathcote.
correct.
Yep.
Yeah, so I sent that to Luke to post up just to see the people. I wasn't talking shit.
Yeah.
You can see that if you look at the photo closely,
Yep.
you'll see the oil trail just on the bed coming off the back of the truck because
Oh,
I literally
God.
blew the arse end off the gearbox. Like the whole extension piece where the shifter is.
See you later.
I blew the whole, blew it to pieces.
See you later.
Don't ask me how I did it, but that car has only ever run like 12.3 at 137
It's so much cable.
on
so much
15.
Oh, you got so much
yeah.
potential, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. But again, manuals that aren't set up for it, that didn't have,
I reckon
it
you
still
could
had
get
coilovers in it.
easily maybe a high 10.
Oh, it'd be a high 9.
High 9, you reckon?
Oh, yeah,
It
with
depends
the-
how. Oh, sorry, with the slipper clutch and everything. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're
correct.
driving like a normal manual.
Are
Yeah.
you planning one day in
Low
future,
10,
hopefully,
yeah.
to take it down, or you?
100%. That's the reason for this.
Another car thrashing?
What's going on
What
here?
is it?
GTR.
No, but it's
No,
the
Hey,
Honda
no, it's
again.
yeah.
The legend.
Failed.
It's,
I was hoping it was an R35.
Yeah,
You can't
Sounded
predict
like-
the sound of that
That's
thing.
a
You
slow
actually
R35,
can't.
dude.
He was cruising. What do you mean slow?
sounded like a VQ35. Yeah.
Well, that's why they all sound similar, those things. But yeah, no, I will race it,
So
definitely.
you can get an LFX to sound like a GDR.
These days you can. You can get any car to sound like anything, really.
Oh, you can get Ranger Raptors sound like SV6s too.
They
Yeah,
are.
true.
They sound horrible. They sound horrible. That's one of the worst sounding cars. I like the Rangers.
They look sick and
They
they go
have
good.
us.
Sound,
They go good
and
what
it
they are.
rips,
Just
but it
sounds hot.
Oh,
horrible.
bro, but you'd be like at Blue Marlin and Caroline Springs, all you hear is.
Yeah, don't
Is that a
put
VN or a
I was like, is it a VS V6? Not wrapped up.
I don't know. See, I'll be straight with you. I'm a love-hate with it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I've got to be in a mood. Sometimes like that's that. Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
Ooh,
okay.
Mustang. Yeah,
that's
65.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's like you'd get people. They'll do twin snorkel setups on the Raptors, and they dose like hectic,
sick.
like a VR. Like,
With Max of theirs, man, they're running stupid numbers in
they've
theirs.
got an 11 in a Raptor.
That's mega.
That's
like,
they're killer
what?
cars.
It's
The
They're
platform's
killer
sick.
cars.
Yeah.
It's like what the
and
hell?
he's one of the first to actually play along with it and go.
Yeah, he
"This-
was
I could
guinea
try
pigging
this
with
and
that
do
when
it."
it first
Yeah,
got.
he's doing a lot of
came out.
development on them.
I think Luke actually,
Zane's-
the boys at Fullbury section went down and spoke to him about it, I believe.
Yeah,
Well, he's
Yeah,
got-
they did.
They've done
Yeah.
a video
He's
on
got that car on T37s, but with like
35s or whatever.
yeah,
it is.
35s
mad.
on it. It's like
Yeah,
what
looks
the
killer.
hell?
I love that.
But yeah, touching back on some other killer cars you've tuned, Jamie Zarafi's VY GDS Coupe,
Did do Jamie's.
Ivan Zalewski's VF GDS.
Yep, did that,
That
as well.
thing's-
Turbo conversion. Yep.
Probably one of my favourite VFs ever.
Yeah, it's a
Love
tough
that car.
thing.
You think
And-
what old mate's doing as well?
Did you
Yeah, he's sussing out hard.
did you do his yellow VE with the
No.
So that had what setup was that? Power Glide in 427?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
with a
something
big
ridiculous.
single turbo on it. I think
Yeah.
that was.
And he won CUDA with that. Funny enough, because we were talking about CUDA and you going for work, he won a CUDA event that year as well.
Yeah.
I was like maybe 14, 15 when he had the yellow car, and then 16 upwards. You know what? That car actually was probably one of the main reasons I started my photography start, like doing photo shoot stuff. I finished up school one day back in Tails Lakes, went to Watergarden Shopping Centre, and his VF was parked up. He went for dinner. I think he said he was at Grilled. And like obviously I knew him, I followed him on Instagram, whatever. I used to run a few car pages back then, so I'd share his
thing's mad.
stuff.
He's a
yeah?
men- he's a
like, you know,
menace.
film
He's a
like
menace.
post
I tell him
videos
all
of
the
him
time.
just fucking sending
Yeah.
it, yeah.
He's not
And
scared.
I seen the car and like it was like sunset, the lighting was mint. I'm like, yeah, I'm taking photos on my iPhone X, like I just take like like photo shoot style, like
Contrast,
the badge,
brightness.
the wheel.
You'll start somewhere.
Yeah, and like
100%,
I
man.
still remember vaguely next to the library, that's where he was parked, and like there was like a group of chicks and they were like sort of laughing. I was like, yeah. And then now look at me, yeah. I was like, I look back at that, I was like, yeah, you're laughing, but you
Now I've
would have
got a
had
big
no
SS.
idea what it took.
Use that, Joe.
Like, that was
Use
the
that as
first.
inspiration.
That was
Absolutely.
the first time I ever watermarked images. Like I put like it was called Holden Street at the time. I had a page and it's got like 24,000. It had 24,000 followers, and I just stopped using it. I
I
changed
love
the name.
looking where you come from, man. That's some
Yeah,
of the
humble
best,
beginnings,
most,
dude. You gotta
most
start.
humble.
Like Harley
Most humble
had a
feeling.
few pages used to run back then in the day as well, so he understands where I'm coming from. Yeah, like I had a page dedicated to just Tiranas. Obviously, my old man got me fed with that passion, and him having the Alex hatch he's got, which is a 355 stroker, like
Tough.
Trimatic 9-inch, tubbed it during COVID. Like me and him in the garage welding shit. Like you know what I
So,
mean.
question for you then: how did you get into Fords if your old man was a Holden?
I wanted a barra.
And
Well,
fair,
look,
fair
I was looking around the budget of like 10 grand or whatever, yeah, and I was like, would I rather a V, like a SV6, because the VF was out of budget for me, or would I rather like a FG or a BF? And then I was looking at a lot of FG XR6s, but I wasn't finding ones I liked, like no leather, just like
Clapped
rough,
out.
yeah,
Yeah,
clapped,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like 5-speed,
You know
not
what?
ZF.
That's one pet peeve of mine. As soon as you say clapped out, what people, so I'm fussy.
Yeah, I'm
What
fussy.
is mint to me is genuinely mint, and that'll come from like spray painters and all sorts of stuff. But then somebody else's version of mint
Well, look,
is to me like,
I'm not going to
Yeah.
say my
Rough.
BF was a show pony or anything, yeah. Like, but when I first got it, bonnet was faded, roof faded. It was like I didn't see it
Yeah, well, there you
because
go.
we bought the car from an underground garage. It was unregistered for a
Oh,
few years,
wow.
yeah. So we had to take it through pits and everything. And you know what? That car passed roadie mint, yeah. All it needed was bump stops. All they needed was bump
they leave the
stops.
factory showroom floor
I was
from
going
Ford
to say, do
after.
people even leave them in anymore?
Yeah, they'll all shoot out. Yeah,
That's a
well,
sack
look,
these
once
days.
once I fucking lowered it, I ripped out the bump stops.
Yeah,
It's last
that's
last
what
thing the
I'm
car
going
needs.
Not that you drive on the road.
No, exactly.
See, right.
But so yeah, I got into Fords because I just wanted a Barra, and eventually I wanted a Barra Turbo or something like that. And I was, like I said, I was looking at mainly FGs, and I seen a BF Fairmont gear come up for sale. It was like 90,000 Ks, and I'm like,
Tough.
let's go look at it. Yeah, like me and my old man looked at a few FGs already. Yeah, like we looked at a Mystic one, which is like that dark bluey green tealy
yeah,
color.
yeah.
And then like we looked at a few other ones that were rough and whatever, and I was just like, you know what, let's go look at a BF, yeah. And sure enough, it was pretty good, yeah. So it looked good in lighting
Saved all
or
your
whatever.
money working at Macca's.
So yeah, that was literally all it was. It was
$14
Macca's
an
money,
hour.
and
Yeah.
on the weekends I used to work at, I don't know if you know him, Andrew Boost and Tune Solutions.
Oh, yeah.
I used to,
Never heard of him.
I don't know him, but
you've heard of him. You've heard of him. I used to just do cashies there on the weekend sort of thing, yeah? Like I'd be there on school holidays. Like what Ertan was saying, on his school holidays he'd work with
It's
his
the best.
uncle,
I love talking about where you started from, where you were, because that's when
Yeah.
you show the humbleness of how you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
all started with just like phone photos of Ivan's car, yeah? And I posted on social media, and like he loved it. I was like, oh, thanks for the photos, bro. It's like a mini photo shoot, yeah? I got like 12 photos of the
He's a
thing,
he's a
different
genuine
angles and
dude.
that.
Got a lot of
But that
time
was
for it.
probably one of the major cars that started it for me, yeah? Like,
Okay.
just if I didn't take those photos of that car, I wouldn't have thought of it. Like, you know, I just happened to follow the name Prostreet Media, and it's stuck, yeah? Not like how people change their names and stuff
It's all
like
the
that.
simple things. Like that's always the hardest part, I reckon, about starting a business. What do you call it?
Yeah.
And then generally,
It's
it's
catchy.
just the simple. It's the simple ones that just take
And
off.
Pro Street, people are just like, oh, what's Pro Street? What's Pro Street? People think, oh, yeah, it's Simmons and big power and stuff like that. Yeah, that's Pro Street. Nah, Pro Street was, do you remember APSA back in the day, APSA at Calder? And it'd be all like the, Pro Street's basically like,
Oh yeah, as in the actual class.
yeah, actual
yeah,
car. So it was like street drag cars basically. So you'd have like door cars, but like 632 cubic inch nitrous setup versus like a small block, like 427, that's twin turbo or something.
Well, that's what
yeah?
Daka from Addicted does. So
Yeah,
he's up there with all
exactly.
the big boys, and he's got his couple of Capris that are in those like really
And
top classes.
that's what,
No, because he ran in straight outlaws, didn't he?
yeah.
Yeah, he did actually.
That's like even Mo, Garage Works, or was it Bill? Sorry, Bill with the S13 that
Yep.
he won in straight out. He bet whoever he was racing in the Alice Turbo
Does
S13.
that run sevens yet, or is that still the eights?
I think that's a 7-second car. That, it's gone to 7, I think, at
insane,
Heathcote.
man.
But he's converted that back to more of a streetable car now. So a little bit more
Well, they were all
tame of a
drifters.
setup.
They all started drifting.
Yeah,
Those guys,
but
like,
oh
back
man,
long time ago.
Pro Street, the name I got it from was like that style of car. You know, like your old school muscle car, but it looks like a drag car, and you drive it on the street. You know, you'd have your Wilder Luma Stars or your Magnums, Centerline Convo Pros or something like that. Yeah, for,
Just classics.
just just tough.
Classics.
Yeah.
I've always wondered how you went from Barra being with your old man. Like,
Yeah.
the fun thing about me, well,
He's
not
always
that people
wanted a
know,
Barra Turbo too. That's why now he's got the VC with the Barra
Yeah.
Turbo. But
So it's a bit of
VC.
yeah, VC with the Barra Turbo. in it.
Wow, okay.
So,
Oh, absolutely.
Why not?
but yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
yeah.
Build the car you want, not one somebody else
100%.
wants.
It's
You know,
different,
full
yeah.
Biz
He
boys
wants to
talking
make it
about
look like sort of like a VC Brock or like paint it like very vintage, like brown vinyl roof. Like he's in
Grand
two
Pass spec.
minds. Yeah,
Yeah.
Grand Pass spec.
Well, like I was saying, Jesse, one thing with me, not much people know, I don't think you even know yourself, I was actually originally a Holden boy.
Yeah, there you
When
go.
I was, when was it? Again, I'm talking back in the day, old ads. Do you remember that good old BA ad, can't get enough of this?
Yes.
That was, I don't know, my dad was
Wow.
always forward anyway, but it was my cousins were Holden, so I was like, oh, yeah, with my older cousins. And then my dad was forward, and then that ad came out with the BA, and I was like, yeah, that's it for me. And then obviously when I got older, my dad had an EF when I grew up, and that's when I fell in love with the EF, and just it was
So
just
did
forward
you
for me
change
from
your
there.
identity at the same time?
Yeah, oh, that was
Did you change your sexuality? Like,
I identify as.
Don't get me wrong. I still, obviously, we've got our preferences, but I still love a good, you're on an SS or a,
100%.
I appreciate
I don't
it.
hate- I
That's what you
appreciate
call yourself.
everything.
Yeah,
I
you call
appreciate-
yourself an enthusiast. You're not an enthusiast if you go, oh, that.
Same as
Screw
me,
that,
yeah.
screw this,
Like
no.
I appreciate everything. I love all cars. Like you can tell me a brand, I'll tell you probably like my favorite car from it. Unless you go say like Tesla.
We've all got our preferences,
or
but
something
you'll
stupid.
appreciate something. Oh, yeah, that's a nice Porsche. That's a. I may not know the model specifically, but
Exactly. You appreciate it.
That's nice. That guy's taking time, hours, detail. Not no.
Yeah.
Holden's the best or Ford's the best. That's it. No,
But then,
you're not an
funnily
enthusiast.
enough, well, let's
You're
talk
not.
about dream cars because you know what? I don't even know what your dream car is. We'll touch base here
don't
because some
even
people
know.
wouldn't guess mine actually.
I don't even know.
You wouldn't even know.
I don't know.
You,
I
what would
don't
your
know.
dream car be?
Are there dream cars that are affordable and unaffordable, or this is just outright?
Oh, well,
if you had
let's
all
go
the
like
money in the
500K
world,
Money
budget.
wasn't an option. 500K.
500k budget, I would actually lower it to 250, and I would get an Eleanor.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. All right. There you go. That's
Gone
a
in
Ford.
60 secondo.
Yeah. You, what would you say, Callum? Well, like, what would your budget
You know
like?
what?
No-
What the hell is that new Koenigsegg that's auto and manual at the same time?
Oh, the
The
Jesco.
CC8X.
That I think you're going
yeah.
to about like 3
CC8X.
million.
Slightly bigger.
Well, we
budget
said
on
money
that
wasn't.
one,
Oh, we're
but
actually doing a 500K budget.
Nah, we'll just say like, okay, realistically, you know, something if you
Oh,
worked your
jeez.
ass off, you could probably get it by, you know, before you retire.
yeah. Eleanor.
Okay.
I just reckon that's ever since that movie come out.
I'll have to think about it, I think.
I love it. Yeah. What are you saying? He's about
Well,
to jump
for
shot.
me-
Go,
Yeah.
go baby, go, go baby, go.
For me, it's an RX3 coupe
Yeah,
with
Yeah,
a 20B in it, like Leon.
you know Jay Bartolo, don't you?
Yeah, of course I know Jay. He's a legend.
I don't know,
Yeah,
man. With me, it was when I was 18. I was like, I want a Barra Turbo DF, and I've done it now, and it's like,
dream car,
yeah,
He's got a photo of it next to his bed.
yeah.
Kisses it goodnight before he goes to sleep.
Good on, baby.
Oh,
But
actually, you know what?
yeah,
No, I've
now,
got it.
now that I've done it, I'm just like, I want to clean it, I want to paint it, I want to, it's. And then apart from that, I don't know. It's.
So you don't have one, or you just?
I
He's
want
pretty
to obviously.
think he's
I'm not
pretty
even
content.
close to where the EF is. Not even close where I want it to be. So apart from that, I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I've got a toss up between two cars actually now that I've thought about it because it's either for me it's completely unrealistic because it's just dumb money, not an option.
Yep.
But there's two that I probably can't top at the moment. One of them is a black VK Calais.
Ooh.
Okay.
I've always
Black
frothed
over
them.
silver, yeah?
Yeah, our uncle was a
field.
panel beater and my cousin had
Chrome,
one.
bit of chrome here and there. Yeah.
Not even, doesn't even have to matter. Just a clean VK Calais, and I just frothed them. It's good to keep it a 5 litre, might go stroke or whatever.
Yeah.
It's either that
Chimmins.
or completely left field E39 M5.
I
There was
reckon-
E46 and the V10. I think it's E60.
Yeah, I reckon those M5s are pretty cool.
Yeah,
But
and they just sound tough. They ran to like 7, 8 Gs, like the E92 coupes do.
Yeah.
But just old school tough. There's no bullshit electronics. It's typical 90 Euro dash.
This is
Nice.
the traction control. This is the
Yeah,
cruise
that's
control.
right.
Turn
yeah,
all
that's
that
right.
shit off. All
Yeah.
these new cars, even like hire cars for work and stuff, I turn all that off.
Yeah.
I hate that lane assist. Everything just beeps at you. I'm like,
Oh, the worst one's the adaptive cruise control. That does my head in.
Oh, you got to set the distance.
Especially when you're trying to overtake
I'm
someone.
a hit and miss, yeah. I love it with my Range every day, how it does this. But I'll hop in the EF, I'm driving the
maybe
car,
it's
yeah.
old
It's-
school. Yeah, well, that's
I've
what it's
got
at.
the-
When you're on
It's
autopilot,
just
it's
about-
different because you're switching off. You're not really.
Yeah,
I
I'll
mean,
hop
you're
in that
concentrating,
car, I'm
but
just
you're
like-
not concentrating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
Well,
get it.
boys, I reckon it's time we wrap up. We've probably gone for 2 hours. Harley gave us like an indicator ages ago. It was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're coming to about
Have
an
we?
hour, and we've just kept going. So
How long has it gone, Harley?
I feel
Flies when you have-
well,
All right,
everyone
guys.
else watching at home
We'll catch you
because
on the next one. Hopefully Anthony's back with us, and yeah, no.